Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. It's an October 1st, everybody, as we move a little bit further into the football season. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
4-0 football team, Red October. I believe it's October, so people get fired up about the Phillies. Not so fired up about my Yankees. That disgusts me right off the bat, but hopefully the Phillies fans get a little more joy when it actually starts. Although I don't like the setup, man. Those usually you get a bye and you lose. That's been the way ever since they changed. Yeah, bye week ain't good in baseball when you play every day. But, it's too early. It's like 3 years they've been doing it this way. So not a large sample size, but hasn't been good so far.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, Wednesday edition here, coming off of yesterday was coordinator day. Obviously, a lot going on in Eagle land this week. I think the tensions or the waters are quieting down a little bit as we now prep for week 5, Eagles versus Broncos. This is actually a good test coming up this week, John. It's an interesting one. I mean, everyone's going to be a good test for the Super Bowl champ Eagles, but I think they're a better team than the Broncos. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up here on today's show. We're going to have Mike Gill and Brandon Lee Goutton as well, so appreciate everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. Drop your comments down below, and if you're new, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you for being here. Johnny Mac, coordinator day yesterday, brother. Vic and Kevin and Michael Clay. I was cracking up at Vic's comments at the end where he just goes on a rant about the kicking balls. Michael Clay comes up.
I thought that was the most interesting part because
me too.
Vic was kind of short with us yesterday. He I don't know, maybe because it's Broncos week and he didn't want to answer any Bronco questions. And I don't blame him. He was out of there in 2021, I think. So, it's been a while. So I think he had that on his mind, but who knows? He wasn't his typical self. But then he stopped at the end and he wanted to bring up something, and that was the kicking balls and Chase McLaughlin. What was it? A 65, 50?
Yeah, we gave up a 65-yarder last week.
Yeah, 65 and a 58. People forget the 58. Right. Yeah, these kickers are crazy. So he compared it. Obviously, Vic's a big baseball guy. Sometimes I think he'd like the Phillies to win more than the Eagles. Loves the Phillies so much. He compared it to the juice ball era of baseball with Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And it's hard to argue with him. And he said basically Brandon Aubrey, he's, Dallas's kicker. He's just amazing. Leg strength wise, he said he's going to hit a 70-yarder. It's going to happen. So you see all these end of game situations, and guys take the lead, and they're all excited, and they're up, 3 or even 1 or 2, and it's like, boy, with the kickoff coupled with these field goals, that's what Vic was saying. It's right. Almost impossible to stop them. You basically need 20 yards sometimes to get in the field goal range, and you can do that in 10 seconds, 40 seconds easily, and it's happened all over the league. So he admitted it's changed, it's got to change the way you think as a defensive coordinator, especially if you're in that purview of up 3 or less, because just if you score with under a minute left, that doesn't mean much. Especially if you screw up the kickoff.
Right. The kickoff's a big part of it because it's, the teams are returning them back to the 35, and then all of a sudden you need 10 yards, and Brandon Aubrey's going to drill a 72-yarder to tie the football game.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that on the other hand, there's a lot of blocks. So, there's been more blocks, at least recently. Obviously, Eagles fans know over the past couple of weeks, they've been a big part of that. But low trajectory. If you are kicking it, you have to kick it low trajectory. Not as low as Joshua Carty, but low trajectory. So that makes you susceptible for more block kicks as well. But I'll tell you what, it's made the games more interesting because they took so much away with the with the bullshit kickoff rules before, where it was just touchback. It was like a waste of time. You might as well stay in commercial. And now they put that back in the game, and it's more exciting. And I like when you increase strategy for the coordinators. Now they have another hurdle to deal with. So go out and deal with it. But I think
do you like in general? Do you like this addition to the game?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it.
Me too. I do too. Because I saw some people kind of complaining about it. I'm like, I kind of like it.
I love it.
And Michael Clay hit it best, by the way, when they were like, "Is this what the NFL wanted?" Or I forget what the question was, and he's like, they wanted more scoring, didn't they?
They always want more scoring. Right. By the way, because defenses seem to have caught up with offenses, which it took a long time, but they seem to have caught up finally. And you're going to see some more tweaks against the defense because they're too good. Too many of them anyway. And Vic's a big part of that. So you're going to see them hamstrung even more because if these low scores continue and low passing yardage, which we're familiar with here, but it's really a league-wide issue. You're going to see more changes. I guarantee it.
Yep,
because they always want scoring. Always.
Yep, and I'm good with them. And I think that's part of what they're doing. That's why I was laughing at Nick, who that quote was on the TV this weekend. I'm not in the entertainment business, and I heard that, and I'm like, as a football fan, I think you'll want to hear your head coach say that, but you should. I
thought that was a great quote too.
It was a great quote, but I will remind Nick that it is an entertainment. It is still an entertainment business.
But he doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't. I mean, as long as you might have to worry about that in Dallas. Again, as long as you have that strong ownership who understands everybody's job. Like the entertainment stuff, that's Jeffrey Lurie and Don Smolensky. That's their wing.
Right.
Nick's supposed to be there to win football games. And as long as he's allowed to do that, that's a positive for the Eagles.
Well, they don't always intersect perfectly, but they have to.
Well, I'll tell you when they didn't intersect. I'll tell you right off the bat. So I'm like, end of game, not a big deal, right? End of game situation. And they're going to win the game. And instead of, who's better with the football in their hands than Jalen Hurts? When you got I think it was 6 seconds, you had to bleed off the clock because you don't want to kick it, punt it back to Buccaneers. You have a return, whatever. You just want to take everything possible off the table. And, it would have taken a major miracle for the Bucs to win it at that point. And obviously they send Braden Mann out there, poor Braden Mann. And they tell him to go waste 6 seconds, go take a safety. So, which is all right. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And you even saw Jalen Hurts debating, like, what are we doing here? I'll do it. You even saw him debating on the sidelines. Well, I'm thinking about winning the game. That's all I'm thinking about. I'm going, what is going on? Like, why would you, like, Braden Mann's not used to having the football in his hands. Again, he's not an idiot. I have confidence in Braden Mann. I'm not trying to say that, but it's just strange to me because the guy with the best ability with the ball in his hands is sitting right there. The game let Jalen Hurts bleed the clock. Well, he lost 34 yards. That goes on the stat sheet. They don't want it on Jalen Hurts' stat sheet. So even a team like the Eagles, that bullshit bleeds into it. So Braden Mann got minus 34 yards rushing.
He'll have those yards for life now, John. He will retire from the NFL with negative.
And believe me, people get lost in the context of that immediately. But once it was explained to me, I said, oh, because think about his impact in the running game. 9 for 62 in that game, by far the best part of the Eagles' struggling running game. And if you take 34 out of that,
10 for 28.
Yeah. And people are going to look at why it's 10 for 28. So I went, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm not thinking of. But even the Eagles, who are hyper focused on wins. All we do is win. All we want to do is try to win. They're like, they don't want to put that on the quarterback stat sheet, which I fully agree with. Now that it's been explained, I'm not even criticizing that. But that's where the bullshit bleeds in. It's like so ingrained.
Right.
And I think the reason I bring it up is I think it's a perfect highlight of why all that stuff is such bullshit. And like Vic with the sack question, you could see his frustration. It's like, look, they'll come. They'll come. The pass rush has been fine. I'm not sure it's fine from the edge rushers, but that's more of a, but it's been really good from the defensive tackles. But you don't really have a lot of sacks. And ironically, the Jordan Davis one against the Rams was the great play where he stopped Matthew, which is a great play, but is that what you think of a sack? No, he got stopped for no gain.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, that's when I talk about it's not a statistically based game. Those are extreme, obvious examples, but that's why it's like, okay, no, it wouldn't have upset me if Jalen Hurts lost 34 yards, but it probably would have upset a bunch of people. Maybe even the quarterback.
It would have created a narrative, and even if they weren't upset about it, they'd be talking about it. And that's probably what the Eagles.
Yeah, why is he struggling in the run game? He's under 3 yards a carry. People are idiots. I'm sorry.
I know they
are. They'll look at the box score. Oh, he's under 3 yards. Saquon's under 3. And meanwhile, he has this really effective rushing game. And like, if you didn't do it with Braidman, that would have been lost in the sauce. I guarantee it. Yeah. So anyway, that's why they did it.
No, good stuff. John, a couple other takeaways from coordinator day. I had a couple, any that stuck out to you. I'll say this about Vic. Makuba seems to be now the all full-time starting safety for this football team. Vic kind of insinuated that yesterday. And then he also made some comments on Ringo, which I actually think were good comments, because the tackling was the biggest issue with Ringo. And Vic pointed out, when you're on special teams, you're tackling 100 miles an hour. It's a little different to tackle in the game. So any other comments that stuck out to you? Those were two that stuck out to me. Any other comments from Vic Fangio or Kevin Petullo that stuck out to you yesterday, or Michael Clay?
Well, I think you hit. I mean, you see his respect for Nico Dean. I'd add that again, but it's going to be difficult. He got to ask the Jihad Campbell edge rusher question again. He shut it down again. He's not ready for that particular role, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, he said Nicobe's going to have his practice window started either this week or next week, so we'll see today if it's this week. So that's going to be interesting. And sometimes things take care of themselves. But right now, there doesn't look like there's a place for Nico Dean. And that's with a coach that loves him, because Jihad Campbell's playing so well. He didn't intimate. He basically said Drew McCuber's the starter now. And he played the whole game, so it was pretty obvious. But, he always leaves it open. Obviously, if he plays poorly, you could always bench him. But I don't see that happening. And then Ringo, he mentioned, could he possibly stay in there over Adoree when Adoree's healthy? And he said possibly. Yeah, I would lean more towards probably if he keeps playing like he did. He does have to clean up some of the tackling issues, and he didn't get tested. I will, like, if I'm in Tampa, I don't know how the Tampa, but I'm like asking Baker, I'm like drilling down, like, what do you? Why not go after Ringo? But maybe they don't know. That to me was just bad, either game planning or quarterback play. I find it very hard to say hey, let's go after Quinion with Kaylee Ringo out there. So I'm kind of blaming it on the quarterback, because where else can he go? But they have a first-time offensive coordinator, so who knows?
I kind of miss when they allowed the beat reporters to interview the opposing coach every week. I wish
you're not the only one.
Yeah,
I mean, there's guys like Sean. This would be a great week. Sean Payton's great, with that kind of stuff. Some of the old school guys are great. Mike McCarthy was great with that stuff. I think Andy's better with the opposition media than he is with this local media. But the new school guys, they don't want any part of it. And there's far more new school guys than old school guys.
Johnny Mac, good stuff. Final couple updates. We're going to get the Mike Gill coming up here. We're going to have Brandon Lee Goutton in hour number 2. John, a couple roster moves yesterday. One that I didn't really see coming. The Eagles placed long snapper Charlie Hewlett on injured reserve, and then I believe they signed long snapper Cal Adamitis. I don't know if I pronounced that. Adomitis? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it yet, but he's a veteran. He's, I think, 48 games with Cincinnati. Charlie, I don't know the injury, but he had that neck injury, remember, in training camp, and they brought in an undrafted guy, Christian Johnstone, to be the long snapper for about a week, and he was dealing with that. So maybe it's related to that. But, this time they went out and got a veteran, and we'll see how it works. Obviously, the kicking game was humming on all cylinders.
I mean, Jake's 12 for 12, and he's booting 50-yarders like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, and Braden Mann's having a phenomenal year, too.
Yeah, I think he's the best punter in football right now in terms of gross average. I think I saw that.
So, we'll see, but it is a veteran guy, so... but, that's a position nobody notices until there's a mistake, and you didn't notice any mistakes, so Charlie was doing a good job. So, but guys get hurt.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but we'll see. We'll see what the update is there. He'll miss at least 4 games, so we'll see if he's back. Dirty D says, "Go Sox." Sorry, John. I don't think the Yankees are out. Yeah, you might want to hold that super chat for a couple more games there.
Well, it's a 3-game series. The Yankees are in deep shit, as they say. So
win them. They play tonight, second game of the night, probably, right?
Well, when you have a start like they had from Max Fried and you blow it, with a crappy bullpen, I mean, it's not like they're going to let Carlos Rodon pitch 9 innings, so you got to go right back to the crappy bullpen. You can't feel good about that.
John's not feeling good about the Yanks, you can tell. Brian Fleming says, J-Mac, were you tempted to yell pause when Vic said the refs or someone comes in and rubs the balls and they play with them? Come on, Fleming.
Yeah.
Dion says,
I have a little more maturity than that. I know I'm talking to a football coach. So yeah.
Dion says, Johnny Mac, how many black polos do you own?
Oh, definitely over 20-ish.
There you go. I was going to say that. Dion, thanks, brother. Appreciate everybody for being here. Hit that like button this morning. We got Mike Gill in the green room. Let's bring him up right now. He joins us here on Birds 365. Mike joins us here. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 Fanatic on the weekends. Mike, welcome into the program, my friend. How you doing on this Wednesday morning? As usual, Mike, a lot to talk about in Eagle Land.
Yeah, I even like the baseball conversation. The dreaded pitch count bites you again. Live by the pitch count. It'll eventually bite you.
Of all the, as an old school baseball fan that doesn't necessarily like the modern game as much, at least, that's the thing that frustrates me the most. And then when you get to the playoffs, Mike, and we'll get back to the Eagles, obviously, but, as a Yankee guy, I'm looking at that game, and Fried goes into the 7th inning. So he's over the magic 100 pitch mark, which your arm's going to fall off. And he gets the first batter. They let him have the first batter. That's where I shift from the regular season to postseason baseball. I'm not taking him out until he puts somebody on base. If he gets on base,
couldn't believe, Boston said, we just saw what happened. We're throwing Crochet back out there. I was surprised they pulled him when they pulled him to bring in Chapman to get a 4-out save because he started to get up in the pitch count. But I hate pitch counts. I during the regular season, whatever, those games are people go crazy because you pull these guys out. I get it, but not in October, man. You go. Well, especially when your bullpen is the Yankees bullpen.
Yeah. Your sentiment has to change in the postseason. In the regular season, I don't care. And really, people kill the managers just like they kill the coach because they don't want to blame the players. You build your team in a certain way. Weaver's supposed to have the 7th inning. And by the way, because he failed at the 8th inning, Williams has the 8th inning because he failed at being the closer, and then they had to acquire a closer. So you got question mark, question mark, question mark. Yeah. But that's how you built the team. That's how you got to go. And the guy doesn't perform, and the manager looks like shit.
Yeah, well, they are, as I said, they are, tied to these pitch counts, and there is a number where they're like, okay, I can't let you go any further just because of we don't want you to get hurt. Now, and those wild card teams, I know we'll get into the Eagles stuff here in a second, but those wild card teams, this is where you're at the disadvantage, where you need that guy to come back and pitch on Saturday, hopefully, for you to be able to compete. And if he pitches 110 pitches today, is he able to get you back to the beginning? That's where the amount of pitches these guys throw eventually. Now, they might be able to win a division series, but can you get through the championship series and then the World Series with those guys piling up the pitches? And it's not that they can't do it. It's that they don't do it all year. And now you're saying,
you got to build them up. Yeah. I mean, how long did Nolan Ryan pitch? What was it? 20?
Hey, let me tell you, this bad boy threw 180 a week, 180 a day. 180 a game. I was rocking and rolling.
Yeah. I believe there's something to if you build yourself up to it, you're going to be fine. But but it is what it is. Sports science, a lot of ways. You see it in football as well. We'll bring it back to the Eagles. And we got bigger things to talk about, but you see it all over football. I mean, one of the Eagles, current Eagles, and I, said it's just softer now. The guys used to play through stuff. Now you get hurt. All right, we're going to sit you down. We're going to sit you down in training camp. We're going to sit you down. Same thing. Basketball, same thing.
Well,
minutes, game management.
See it in football right now. You see it in football right now. The product is just terrible. It's terrible all over the place. These guys aren't ready. They're making mistakes. They're lined up in the wrong spots. It's a bad product. And how do you change it? Like, how do you get back to where it was? You don't. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. These teams aren't going to do 2-a-days in the middle of the summer anymore. That's just not happening. And the sad part is the players of today are content with this product. They're happy that this is their product. They think this is a product that is, we talk about Trey Turner won the batting title. You hit 300. That's shit. The fact that you hit 300 and are the best hitter in the league, I said every batting coach out there that's teaching people how to hit should be embarrassed that this is the game that you've given us. Same with football, that this is the product that we get stuck with because of how everything has turned into.
I've been saying it for years. Mike, I've been saying that for years, but people love it. They don't turn it off. So the NFL.
We had this discussion, and I had you on Monday, and I kind of I hinted at it a little bit. My buddy's telling me if the Eagles don't get more entertaining, they're in the entertainment business. I said, that building will be filled every game. They will never not sell out Lincoln Financial Field for the rest of our lifetimes. And he's like, well, not if they keep playing this kind of offense. People are going to start their
Are you kidding me? That's what I said on your show. They won 20 or 21 games. You think these people aren't showing up? That's nuts.
Listen. Well, it's about entertaining. And this product, I said, dude, they could run the push up and down the field and people will fill that building up. They could take a knee the whole game and win 3-0. So people can pay to boo them. They will never not sell. I said 0-17, and you pushed back on me, and I said they might have to go 0-17 for 3 straight years before people finally said, "All right, this is enough."
Yeah,
I said, I don't think Nick Sirianni sits down and says, where is entertainment on my game? He's got a hard enough time figuring out what the role of this offense is and what the identity of the offense is before he starts putting entertainment in the playbook each week.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. And we brought that up before you came on. I thought that was a great quote by Nick. And it's 100% right from his purview. And again, I give credit to Jeffrey Lurie for setting it up that way. Like maybe Brian Schottenheimer's got to deal with more of the entertainment value down in Dallas. So I think Jeffrey Lurie, that's his purview. That's Don Smolenski's purview. the business part of it, entertainment part of it. It's not Nick's, man. He's out there to win games, and I think the Eagles do it the right way, but there's always something. And A.J. Brown, it's this week, not the first time, probably won't be the last time. The problem to me is, Mike, that, hey, I want to get your thoughts on how A.J. handled it, number one. But then after that, it's like, I think the only difference between this year and last year is you haven't had the outlier games yet. You sort of had it in the second half against the Rams, first half, but not a full game. You had the Pittsburgh game. You have these games where you look great offensively. You haven't really had that yet, but in theory, it should be coming. Or are you concerned that it's not coming? It's just that bad.
All right. So last week he had 10 catches against the Rams for 100+ yards and a touchdown. 10 targets, I should say. He had 9 targets last week. They just didn't.
Garbage targets, but yes, 9 targets.
9, but 10 targets the week before. So the targets were almost identical. And the week before that, he had 8 targets. So the targets are in the same range. It's why are they not fulfilling the target in the game against Kansas City and the game against Tampa? The first week against Dallas, he only had the 1 target. He made the catch. But why did he get 8? Why did he get 9? And then one week he got 10 and went off. Is that a AJ? Is that a Jalen? Is that a different? Because everyone's saying he's running the same routes. Well, if you ran the same routes, you should have similar fruition here. So that's why it's a little bizarre to me that one week he had 10 targets and 100 yards. The next week he had 9 targets, but only had 7 yards. There's some disconnect at what's happening in there. Now, yesterday we went back. AJ was on a podcast way back at the Super Bowl, and many people probably remember this, but he mentioned after they won the Super Bowl that he was unfulfilled by winning.
I brought that up. Yeah.
Right. And we played this audio yesterday, and it's really crazy to hear him. Like he said, I don't play for money or clothes or stats or any of that. It's about the grind.
Yeah, well, it's about, and he said dominating the opponent also. Like,
well, if you don't get excited about winning the Super Bowl, how are you fulfilled by winning a regular season game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in September, and you walk out of that game with 2 catches? Now, he said it's not about the stats, but I think it is more him saying, if we're going to win, I want to contribute to the win. I don't want to just grind all week and then waste my time and not be a part of the game. If I'm going to go, because it's not about the win, it's about contributing. And that's the word that Sirianni used. He wants to contribute to the wins. He wants to contribute. He didn't say to the wins, but he wants to contribute. So this is the guy who's saying, I'm not flying to Tampa to take away time from my family if I'm not going to contribute, whether we win or lose. That's how I read it.
How much of an impact does it have moving forward, do you think? I don't think
it's
much. You don't think so?
Not much. No, we saw this last year. I mean, listen, Brandon Graham came out. They had friction between the two. They had their best game of the season the next week. I know, John, I was a little surprised that your take was that for the first time, and maybe you're right. I don't know, but we've seen AJ. I think tomorrow or today, whenever he talks, he's going to flash that smile and everything's going to be okay. He just goes through these. He's not even that much of a diva wide receiver next to these guys. No. Like, if you get this once a year from him and you got it out of the way in September, I think that's a win for us.
Well, one of the things I thought, was a mistake was the way he handled it. After the game, he didn't talk to reporters, which is fine. I mean, it wasn't the
anytime you post on social media and make it ambiguous.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. And if you look at the Bible verse, it's like you did the exact opposite in the modern era. Like, where do young people go? Social media. You got 4 million views a couple days ago on that tweet. That's more than most TV shows get today. So you're not receding. You're doing the exact opposite. You're going to the largest public square there is. It might not be literal like it was in the old days when you would do push-ups in your driveway, but it's the largest public square there is where the most people will see it. So that part of it, I don't agree with how AJ handled it. And
I would
maybe
agree
you're
with that.
right, Mike. Maybe he shows up today and he completely does a 180. But yeah, my immediate thoughts were, and I've talked to AJ a lot over the years. My immediate thoughts was this one's a little bit different.
The other part of the thing that AJ talked about in this podcast was, he had seen champions, drinking and smoking cigars. And he's like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. So he doesn't know how to feel fulfilled by accomplishing his goal. Like when people accomplish a goal, they celebrate, generally with maybe a cocktail or a cigar or some kind of mind-altering situation. And he's saying, I won this Super Bowl and I'm in the same state.
Well, that's, I compare it. I'll go back to my Yankee fandom. That's the only fandom I have left, Mike, partially because I've never really covered baseball. It's the only sport I haven't covered on a consistent basis. So I never got, once you get into it, it's like, but so when I was younger, I would live and die. I'd celebrate the championships and when they would lose, you're upset and all the fan stuff. And now I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm kind of pissed off about that game last night.
Yeah.
But that's it. 10 minutes up. I got real shit to do. I was on the phone with somebody about this bullshit with the Eagles for an hour and a half. It's like there's no fulfillment if they win, other than 5 seconds of, hey, that was pretty cool.
Exactly. And like we live in a society where everything is eventized and celebratory, and that is somewhat acceptable of a norm. Is like, hey, we're having a party for your birthday. We're having a celebration for your graduation. Everything, and it's all a social event. And generally when a social event happens, you have people, doing stuff outside of their normal day. Well, AJ wins this championship. Now, he did say that he did try to drink, and he's like, I was a little loopy, but that's just not him. So it wasn't gratifying to him. So that's why I look back and say, if winning the Super Bowl is not gratifying, and he says the grind is, if I'm going to put all this time in, then don't waste my time. Because he mentioned the one thing that was gratifying to him was spending time with his family celebrating the Super Bowl. Well, he's got to separate himself from his family to go play this game. And if I'm not going to be a part of the game, don't make me waste my time is kind of like how I see this. Now, that doesn't mean every week you're not going to have your time wasted. And that doesn't mean because he had 2 catches that it was a waste of time. Who knows what else he's doing? But that's why I go back to the targets. He had 9 targets. How did you run those routes? Because a lot of people who are watching those routes are saying, he didn't really run those routes with a lot of piss and vinegar, So why? Why does he not like the routes? You can't have it both ways. If they're going to call a route for you, whether you like it or not, you better run it to the best of your ability.
Yeah,
that's
fair.
where you would
good.
Right, that's where you would have a problem with AJ. Is if he's like, I don't like these routes, so I'm not running them the best way. That's where this would be on him, because you did get 9 targets. Why were those targets not fulfilled? Because you ran 10 the week before, and they were fulfilling to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of us leaves out the human element of AJ too. I mean, like, you don't become one of the best receivers in football without a certain approach, mindset, healthy selfishness and belief in yourself. And, the way they're playing right now doesn't really put AJ on a trajectory where, he'll be talked about as good as he probably believes that he is. And part of me understands that because, Mike, you keep bringing up how he's not fulfilled. I think everybody in some way can relate to that, where they have this picture of when they get to a certain place in life, whatever it might be in your own life, if it's a job, if it's money, whatever. And then you get there and you're like, man, it's not all it's cracked up to be. What's next? And I think AJ kind of went through that, and now he's at the point where,
this is where you see people who have ungodly money do stupid things, right? They have so much money, they get bored and they don't know what to do with it, so they do stupid things. That's where you see the societal breakdown of kids who have parents with a lot of money, they just say, instead of hanging out with their kids and doing something, here's money, go find something to do. And the kids say, I got all this money, so they're going to go do stupid things with it. And you get to a point where I'm not fulfilled by my goal. I thought it would be better than this. So now what do? I'm going to let people know I'm not happy about it. And that's why you go back to, I don't like the way he goes out on. I don't like anytime we do a segment on my show every day called Nick's Nuggets. My man Nick is one of my producers. He's a young guy, so we try to bring a younger angle into the show. He brings these social media posts into the segment all the time, and I say, I just don't care. I don't care what you post on social media. I'm not going to sit here and read the tea leaves on these things. I just don't give a shit. Like, I don't care what you post, but I get it. You have to look at it because that's what these guys are doing now. But most of the time, those things don't come to fruition. It just gets us all riled up to talk about it, and I think that's what they like. That
the classic,
the
classic so-and-so enter player's name has removed all evidence of their team name. That's a classic. I don't even know how you do that on social media. Evidently, they figured out how to do it, so you send a message that way. I'm with you. Anybody who goes to Instagram, that's how to keep things away from me, because I ain't going. Do whatever you want on Instagram. It's free. Somebody told me last night, hey, go check out Landon Dickerson. There's something going on. I'm flushing it out. Maybe it'll come to something. Maybe it's nothing. Go check out Landon Dickerson's Instagram. I'm like, I ain't doing that. I'm not going to formulate anything from somebody's
Instagram. I can get to. TikTok, I'm out. Once we get to TikTok, that's the level.
I'm like, I'll ask him the question when I see him. I don't need the Instagram story. But anyway,
I get it that's the world that we live in, where these athletes now have this platform where they don't want to tell John McMullen because they'd rather be passive aggressive. Because if I tell John McMullen face to face, he can ask me a follow-up and then another follow-up. And then I get Jeff McClain asking me another follow-up. And then Zach. I don't need any follow-ups. I'm just going to post my answer, and you do what you want with it. It's a very passive.
And that's fine. But the players should know they open it up to speculation, so anybody can take that AJ post and run.
But he has
run in any direction.
He now has 72 hours to get his hands smacked, because he knows he's not going to get. What are they going to do to him? Really, he's going to get it in a quick sit down with. This is how we're going to play this. You flash your smile and tell them that you sat with coach and you have a great relationship with everybody, and we'll throw you the ball 11 times this week and we move on.
No, I'm going to predict AJ has a big game. But, Mike, let's actually talk about –
It's a tough team to have a good game against. I'll tell you that much.
That's your 10. They got some good players. You're right. But I want to talk about what AJ's talking about, this offense, Mike. I mean, let's be real here. They got all these players. They got all this money spent on offense. They've been together. Now they returned 10 of 11 starters coming in this year. And we've had 2 great halves of football of the last 4 and 2 damn near historic bad halves of football in the last 2 of the last 4 as well, where they had -1 passing yards in the first half last week, and they don't complete a pass in the second half this week. Is AJ right? Last year, Mike, we went to the Super Bowl. And we did it in an anomaly way in the modern game by running the football, which the entire game is built to not do that anymore. I mean, every part of the legislation, everything they do is for the passing game. The Eagles do it in this anomaly way with a historic running season and pretty close to a historic defense. Right now, they don't have either of those 2 things. So if they're going to have late success in the year, what do they have to do differently this year as compared to what they did last year? That's where I think AJ might be right. I don't think you're going to just go to the Super Bowl this year if Saquon's not running the same way, if the defense isn't quite as good. You're going to have to make up for some of that somewhere, and that's where I look at the $55 million worth of receivers and say, yeah, they're going to have a bigger role. So I think he's right about that. Maybe I'm overstating it. How do you see it?
No, listen, last year, the whole year, we would say, and then everybody after the Carolina game got to a point where it was like, okay, what's holding them back? If you put any other quarterback in this with this group of, and I include the offensive line, because you look at what happens to these teams when they don't have an offensive line, they completely fall apart. You can have Joe Burrow with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but he can't stay healthy. And then the next guy comes in and he can't even get a throw off. I mean, Browning's so bad because that line, he is petrified behind that line. So it's not only that you have these weapons, it's that you also have the best offensive line in football. And that's where it is so hard to grasp why they struggle. And Petula's saying they don't know what their identity is. You've had the same group of guys on offense for 3 years now. This should be like rinse, repeat. And you don't know, and I get it, people evolve, and they scout you out, and they do things to take away what you do well. Okay, that's where you peel the onion and say, we've been doing this well, but we have this in our back pocket, which we know because, as Dallas Goedert and John, you echoed, they got plays in their playbook that have been sitting there for 4 years that they haven't used yet. So once they start to figure out these plays, it's time to now say, all right, we've been setting you up and setting you up and setting you up. Now we're ready to run this group of our offense. And we haven't seen that yet because they should be able to have a Pittsburgh game whenever they feel like it. Whenever they feel like it. You see teams go up and down the field, zip, 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 zip. And now, one area where the Eagles are really good and other teams struggle is they zip, zip, zip up and down the field, and then they get in the red zone and they can't score. They kick field goals. The Eagles are 11 for 11 in the red zone.
The Eagles are so unique. It's
but they also lead the NFL, by the way, in 3 and outs.
Yeah, true.
Well,
that's why they're
over
such a bizarre
45%. Think about that. 45%.
They're such a bizarre team. Like, Mike, you were the one who brought it up last week that got me on this kick. And I'm like, and you just said it again. They should be able to zip up and down the field whenever they want. Like, I think a lot of people, I'm not blaming you. I think that's a lot of people's mindset because of the talent. There's no evidence of that anywhere. But what they're great at.
No, but when they go tempo, football. When you see teams go tempo sometimes, I don't know, this is later in the game and defenses are kind of playing, but like it is just bang, 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 1, 2, 3, bang. You see Matthew Stafford, when he wants to throw the ball to Puka Nacua and get a completion, he's getting that completion. Now, he might not get it on third down and 7. Yeah. Right. He might not get it on 3rd and 7 in the biggest moment of the game, but he's getting it up and down the field all day long to put them in position to get that 3rd down and 7.
But that's Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. That's not how this offense plays.
Did do it against Vic too, by the way, John.
Yeah, he did it plenty. He did it plenty.
But that's the point.
But not in the key
that
situation.
People equate A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the same level, if not better than Puka Nacua.
Well, they are. They are individually. But this offense is not. And part of it is just the way they play. Part of it is not having a high volume thrower. God forbid I'll get thrown under the bus. They don't play that way.
Agreed. But that goes back to Zander's point. At some point, now, is it at some point like 1 week or at some point meaning you're going to have to slowly start? Because I will say this, Zander. The Eagles signed Barkley last year, and I was really intrigued by all these running backs that were free agents. What were teams going to pay running backs? Well, Barkley got paid, Henry got paid, Jacobs got paid, and all these teams gave you small little hints that when teams are trying to defend all these quick little pass games, we're going to start running the ball at you. So you have these small little defenses, and now we have these power run games. You go out and get these nickel corners and these smaller linebackers. We're going to get these bigger running backs and make you have to play power football with us. So you did see teams start to turn Derrick Henry, Baltimore, one of the best teams in football last year. Green Bay gets Josh Jacobs. That turns them into one of the better teams in football. Philadelphia gets Saquon. They become the best team in football. Austin Gentry gets drafted in the top 10. When do you see a running back now? So teams are trying to say, you built your defenses to stop these spread offenses. We're now going to try to get a little bit more running attack, and you're going to have to find a way to stop us. Now, teams are finding a way to stop the Eagles' running game, and that lies the biggest problem of them all. If they don't have that run game, we talked about it last year. The Eagles needed every yard of those 2005 to be the team that they were. What happens if they only get 1,300 of those yards this year? Where are they getting those other 700 yards?
Well, this is what I don't like about the Eagles right now in terms of their mentality. And I appreciate that Nick changed to this at the bye week last year, and he's 20-1, so he's had no evidence that he needs to change. But what I will learn from 23, and I will not compare this year to 23, but what you can learn from it is Don't let winning mask what needs to be fixed. And I also watched the Eagles come within a play of winning a Super Bowl without having this only run first team. Jalen Hurts was second in the MVP voting that year. So, like, there's not only one way for this team to win football games. And then I'll say this, and I want both of your guys' opinions on this, because it's kind of become a hot button topic with Kevin Patullo. And I don't fall in the camp of fire Kevin Patullo or it's all Kevin Patullo's fault. But I do want to ask this. At what point do we look and say, can there be at least a little more creativity? We bring up Sean McVay a lot on this channel. And Sean McVay, I agree with John and you, Mike. I think you have this take as well, where Sean McVay is a great offensive mind, but he struggles in some of the other areas as being a head coach. I agree with that. But one thing he definitely does do is it doesn't matter what a defensive game plan is. Puka Nacua is getting his catches. I mean, he's got over 100 yards in 3 or 4 games this year. You know, he moves them all around. And are they relying a little too much on the talent on A.J. Brown, where there's no creativity? You got to give your players an opportunity by getting more creative routes into the offense, doing different things to scheme A.J. Brown open. You can't have the same routes for 2 years straight and then just expect, okay, A.J.'s good enough, he's going to get open. And that's where I wonder on Patullo. Again, I'm not saying fire him or anything, but can there be a little bit more offensive creativity that gives your great receivers an advantage?
Yeah, it's almost as if the Eagles coaching staff is so enamored with the physical skill set of A.J. Brown that they just assume that he's going to win his battle every single time. Whereas Puka Nacua doesn't have the physical stature and traits that I have to be more creative to get him open to unleash these great traits that he has. Well, if the Eagles utilize A.J. in a way that these teams use their number one wide receivers, you probably would see. The big question is the Eagles, they went 2-2 to start the season, and that was in large part because Jalen kept turning the ball over. And then, as John, you've said, they pounded into his head. They pounded it not only into Jalen's head, their own head. They went up 18 points last week, and they said, we're not turning the ball over to let you get back in this game. You're going to have to score 3 times. You're going to have to go on, and we believe in our defense that you ain't scoring 3 times against us. So even if we have to go 3 and out 45% of the time and give you the ball back, good luck scoring 3 times on us if we get. And that's where you're up 18, and this is where AJ would be getting all these yards and big plays. They don't need it from him in that instance, and they built the lead up without using him. So that's where he got lost in the sauce, although he got targets while they were up, and they were unfulfilled targets because I still contend that Jalen Hurts was living on another island at that point. However, they were up by 3 scores at that point. So they didn't need A.J. Brown to be a part of the offense. They built a lead up without A.J. and therefore didn't need to hold the lead with his help. And until that rubber meets the road, they don't have to peel that onion. And they would say, we've had to do it, Rams game, we have it. Steeler game, we have it.
I will say this. And I'm not picking on Zander because everybody says it, but I hate that term creative. Like, weren't they creative with the push plays, the Dallas Goedert diamond formation play and the play to Saquon Barkley? Everybody's like, you know, to me, it's the same thing as we say with play. You're not really talking about creativity. Most people, they're talking about effectiveness and efficiency and results. Same thing.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to my buddy in the text chain saying if they're not entertaining, you can't push your way. That can't be your only way to win games. Is if, hey, we got to push because we're on the 3-yard line, but now we can score. What are you going to do when you're on your own 30?
Well, that's the craziest part of that. That's what's so weird about this team. You can point out to, as Zander did, the 3 and outs. It's ridiculous. There's so many 3 and outs. On the other hand,
I'll tell you real quick, John. They get the interception in the end zone. That last year ends that game. They get the interception. There's about 7 minutes left, and they run the game out, and the Buccaneers never get the ball back. They can't do that this year. That's where it's going to be interesting. They would take the last 7 minutes of a game, and it'd be over. They'd just run you out, and that would be it. It would be like an anaconda just slowly going around your neck, and then bang, the mouse is running around.
Well, definitely. they're doing it a different way. It's been
They're doing it in a way where they're playing with fire, where they go 3 and out, they punch you the ball back, and they're asking you to go the whole field. Now, Tampa Bay couldn't go the whole field, but they had a 13-play drive, and the Eagles eventually stopped them. But last year, they wouldn't have given Tampa the ball
that's
back
the thing,
with any chance to get back in that game.
Do they deserve credit for 11 of 11 in the red zone?
Sure.
This isn't, we were talking baseball, EPA, so expected points added for the nerds of the world. They're actually better offensively this year than they were last year, believe it or not, because of the effectiveness of the plays they do run correctly at this stage. They're still middle of the road, 14th, but significantly higher. And that's like a war stat. Somebody will come up with another stat that's more important. But right now, that's the one that's supposed to give you the best feel. And that factors in, Jalen Hurts is running in his legs and all that stuff as well. And stuff like that helps you understand why they're 4-0 versus 1-3 or 2-2 with the shitty raw numbers offensively, because the raw numbers look terrible. But then they have these little pockets of things they do really well. Nobody plays in the red zone better than the Philadelphia Eagles. Nobody. To Mike's point, well, that's Mick's philosophy. If you're going 13 plays, we're going to make a play at some point, or you're going to fuck it up, and you're going to go backwards, and you're going to have a penalty, and that's going to derail the drive. What he hates is those explosive plays they gave up, and he didn't even want to talk about them yesterday.
I like how you tried.
Yeah. He's so disgusted. He's so disgusted with them. He didn't even want to talk about them, because that's the stuff that bothers him. But again, it's a weird offense. And until you embrace it, I don't think you're going to get past it. They're never going to be the high volume passing offense. I say it all the time.
I liken this era of Eagles football right now to the Tim Duncan Spurs. They were the best team. They were boring. And they were unapologetic about being boring, because the guy in charge, Tim Duncan, didn't want to be exciting. He didn't want to be all that.
Big fundamental. That was
he accepted that was their way to win, and that fulfilled him. And Hurts doesn't need to throw the ball 40 times. He might want to, but he's accepting of the fact that we're winning because of this is the way we're doing it. And I'll win by. I also liken him to the Florida Gators with Tim Tebow. There was no way Tebow was a great thrower of the football, but you believed every time they took the field that they were going to win because they had Tebow. That's essentially Hurts. You believe they're going to win because he's the guy that is the quarterback, whether through hell or high water. If he has to make the elite throw at the one moment he has to, he will. He might not make the elite throw in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, but damn it, if he needs it in the fourth quarter, he will find a way to make that throw. And you just believe because he's the guy. It doesn't mean he's the best. That's why these stupid lists have everybody crazy. Well, he won the Super Bowl. Where should he be? He should be, doesn't matter. He should be on the list of winners, not best talent, best this, that, or the other thing. So they are like this team that does things, as you said, Zander. They do it differently than everybody else. And they're saying, we're the best. Do it our way. If you can't figure out a way to do it our way and you can't beat us, we're going to be on top until you figure us out. And so far, 20 out of 21. And the only way you got beat is when Hurts went out of the game. They're figuring it out better than everybody else is.
The lows are too low, though, guys. They are. I'm sorry, but this is not. Look at this chart. Look at this chart on the screen right now. The Eagles are top 45, north of 45% in 3 and outs this year. And then they get to the red zone, and they're one of the best red zone teams in football.
How many of those 3 and outs are when they have a 2 to 3 possession lead?
I don't know.
There were 5 of them last week.
Is that not a lot of stress on your defense? Mike, you're going to sit here and rely on a defense that had 5 moving parts this year.
I don't say that I agree with it. I'm just saying their philosophy is, and this is why 2023 is different. Their defense then would give you points right back. The Eagles are saying, our defense is so good, you ain't scoring 3 times against us. They were up 18. That's 3 possessions. You are not getting 3 scores on our defense in a half. And that's what they think.
Well, they're certainly doing every opportunity to assist the other team by having 5 3 and outs. I mean, that's brutal on a defensive line. Man, you got Jordan Davis playing,
especially in 100 degrees,
100-degree heat. I mean, it's amazing they held up the way they did last week. That's why
I didn't say it would be the way that I would do it.
Right.
I didn't say it would be the way that I would game.
No, I got you. I'm just, I think the lows are too low. Like I get it. You're right, Mike, in the Spurs comp, but with the different variables this year, I think they're going to have to do some things a little bit differently. They're going to have to switch it up a little bit, and the lows can't be this low, man. The 2 of the last 4 halves.
Well, who's gonna stop this team right now? I mean,
that's the scariest part. Can you imagine what this team looks like if they are able to put it all together?
Here we go. Everybody's going to talk up Denver because they have a good defense and they have a good pass rush, and they do. But Bo Nix had a good game. He's been terrible early on this season. Finally broke out a little bit against a dead in the water Cincinnati team. That's the guy Vic Fangio beast on, really.
Yeah.
Young quarterback.
He's erratic as a thrower. He's an erratic thrower, but I thought he played very well. But Cincinnati, you can't get any read on them. They're so bad. That's a tough game to get a read on. But yeah, if they have
by the way, they have a good offensive line, very good offensive
line. Very good offensive line. The Eagles' schedule, they have the Packer game, and I said to you, John, I'm not as big on the Packers as a lot of other people were. To me, they're just a good team. They're not a Super Bowl team. When they got Micah Parsons, that got everybody excited, but their offense is just pedestrian. I mean, they're just okay. Their defense, they gave up 40 points to Dallas, and I know Dallas has a good offense. No CeeDee Lamb. You can't give up 40 to that outfit. That's terrible. That Packer team, to me, has always been a good team. I'm not saying they suck. They're good. They're not a Super Bowl team. The Lions, I think, have passed the Packers. They are dangerous.
Yeah,
again.
The Lions are still good, which I was a little bit concerned with the coordinators. But
yeah, I agree with you. And the first week when the Packers beat them, that was like, whoa. But the Lions have settled in. They have found their identity, right? Yeah. No Ben Johnson. We have figured out who we are without Ben Johnson now. But I think the Packers, Lions, that stretch, and then what's Washington going to be by the time you get to the end of the year? Right now, I mean, they
better hang in. They better hang in.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You just lost to Atlanta, who got beat 30-0 the week before to Carolina. So the Eagles stretch is really
you know better, Mike. It's a week-to-week league. I have really, and you know that, and you say that better than most. I mean, you can't. There's no transitive theory in the NFL. There really is.
No.
Not.
But I think, and listen, you could play a team that's 9-8. They get in and they play their best day of football on that particular Sunday. There's no evidence of why they would play it on that day against you, but it could come out at any time. Yeah. Right? It could come out at any time. But when you're, this happened to the Eagles a couple of years ago. It was the Foles year. I think it was 2019. They had lost 4 straight games, and one of them was to the Dolphins that year, who were tanking for Tua. And you're like, there's just no way. And I kept saying, yes, there's a way for them to get to the playoffs, because they showed you on their best night they could beat. And at that time, I think the Packers were like the best team in the league, and the Eagles had beaten the Packers. I think that was the game where Laurie basically said, we won the game.
Why'd you run the ball?
Exactly. So that was that year where their ceiling was, we can beat the Packers, but their floor was, we could lose to the tanking for Tua Dolphins. That meant there was a lot of room in here for you to mess up every single week. The lack of consistency, and in the end, it ended up hurting that team. They get the drop pass from Alshon, and the rest is history. But this team here, very difficult to diagnose because they don't do things the way that anybody else does. And I remember in 2023. In that 10-1 run, saying that the Eagles are saying, we will fist fight you. And if you don't want to take your gloves off and fist fight us, you ain't beating us. Until someone punched them in the face, the 49ers, and knocked them down to a knee, and they never got back up. Yeah. Which team out there is going to fist fight them and beat them at what they do? So far, the Bucs have tried on their home turf in 105 heat and failed. The Rams tried. They had them down. They couldn't put them away. You went to Arrowhead. That team's trying to avoid 0-2. They couldn't get it done. See if Denver can step up.
Yeah.
At
Sometimes-
Mike Gill Show. We kept you late. I
Yeah.
apologize, buddy. At Mike Gill Show on YouTube as well. Denver coming in real quick. Obviously, you can change on your show. It's early in the week, but I'm on record, Mike. I'm not picking against the Eagles till they lose, and that includes this week. But it is an interesting game because of the pass rush. The Eagles are struggling on the offensive line. Offensive line of Denver is better than most offensive lines the Eagles are going to see. So they have some things to work with. Sean Payton, Big Fangio has tons of respect for Sean Payton, by the way. So a lot of good things for Denver, but I'm still picking the Eagles. What's your early feel on the game?
Well, last week I took Tampa, and I thought it would be a close game. Tampa, late in the game, like we were talking about this on my Friday show. If they can get the game with a one-score game late and wear you out with the heat and everything, that's where Tampa felt they had a shot. That's what Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles said. If we can be in the game late, we think we can wear them down in the heat and then take them. They almost had that game plan, but give the Eagles credit. They did not get worn down enough to give up that game. In this situation here, this Denver team feels like the kind of team that people don't know much about them. They're not flashy. They're kind of middle of the road playoff team, and they've been on the come, and they got off to a bad start this year. So now you really look at them even less than maybe you did entering the year when you're like, hey, that's a playoff team. They're on the way up. And they lose 2 games that you're like, But this feels like the kind of team that can steal one in your building and then really get people asking a lot of questions. So I would not be surprised if Denver came here.
All right.
That being said, I'll take Philadelphia in an ugly one, like 24-20, something like that.
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate you joining in, man. I want to read just one comment to you. Follow the Water says they play like the Spurs when they have the Kobe and Shaq Lakers roster. I think that's how many feel because they're like, hey, we're not built like that team, but that's how they play. Mike, good stuff. Man.
I don't say that I disagree with that. I question all the time how you are not more efficient offensively forget the receivers. You have great receivers, but forget those guys. With the offensive line that you have, you should be able to essentially pick and choose what style of play you want to play. And they have chosen I said picking, that's a bad they have chosen a style that is unaesthetically pleasing to many, unless it works. Because when Saquon's running for 2,005 yards, no one gives a shit that they're handing him the ball every single time. You have people that stand outside of the NovaCare complex
run the ball
signs. And now people want them to throw the damn ball. It's a great world we live in.
Yeah. Well, when it ain't working as good, it's going to be tough to do. We'll see what ends up happening. Mike, appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks, bro.
Hey. All right, there's Mike Gill joining us here. We appreciate him giving us some extra time today. Good stuff from Mike. I liked some of his takes today. John, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm becoming the curmudgeon of the week, but I just
how about that? We're doing 180s. I'm like,
I like. Am I wrong?
Like the red zone? No, I mean the 3 and out stuff is real. It's pathetic.
I just feel like the lows are too low. I feel like we can't have these type of lows where
I say it all the time. They're such a unique team, and until people embrace that, like. It seems to me when they're in high leverage situations, they focus more, they bear down more. And you could make a serious argument, well, why don't you do that all the time? Well, it's human nature. You can't be on, at optimum level for 65 plays. It just doesn't work that way. It's everything's an imperfect sport. They're human beings. But when they get in those high leverage situations, 11 for 11 in the red zone, Jalen Hurts extending plays, making something out of nothing in big spots. It's like, how many times do you see them? All right, they go behind or they give up a drive, and you're like, oh, they're in trouble. And here comes Jalen Hurts extending plays and getting stuff done with his legs and killing the defense and backbreaking. It's incredibly unique, but it's not what people expect. And I think most people say, and I think at some point, like to that comment that you just read, maybe they don't have the Kobe Shaq Lakers. Maybe they don't. Maybe they are the Spurs. Maybe they are the Spurs.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas
But
Goedert.
you're focused on the skill position players, which I get. Splashy, that's what people
Well,
like.
there's no doubt that Jalen's a good comp for that style. There's no doubt. I mean, he's
a
not
phenomenal comp for that style.
Yeah.
And he runs the show.
Right.
What I often talk best pure football player. Who are the best pure football players on the Eagles? AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Lane Johnson. Who's the most important player? Jalen Hurts, no question. And that's everywhere. Jake Browning right now is the most important player on the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a problem.
Which is a problem for them, right?
Yes. The quarterback, no matter good, bad, indifferent, is the most important player to that particular team. So it should be no shock to anyone. But he ain't the Showtime guy. He's the Tim Duncan guy. He's the nondescript, just go about your winning business guy. And that's where the tone is set. So people, might start rethinking that, because again, I brought this up since Mike was the one who brought it to. I'm like, no, there's no evidence that this can be the Broncos, the 606 point Broncos.
Yeah, you're not wrong. John, I want to talk to you about one thing here. We got a BLG coming up in about 10 minutes, but and I know you always push back on this word, and I'd like to think I understand why you do. And I brought it up earlier, the creativity comment. But in your opinion, isn't there I agree where people go too far, where they think motion's going to fix everything and all those and all that. I'm not talking about that. Isn't there a marginal improvement though that your coordinator should be able to provide to your skill position players to be able to get them in space and whatever you want to call that? If it's not creativity, if it's not motion, that's fine. But that seems to be lacking a little bit to me, where maybe they're relying a lot on the talent. They're not doing anything to, put him in different situations, or at least give him an opportunity to get the ball marginally more, or to get open marginally more, or to be better versus opponent marginally more. Am I off base on that?
That's a good marginally more. Yes. I always say that's the definition of coaches. I use the term, get them a little bit better than they would be able to go on their own. You can't make a just a guy into an all pro. That's not how it works. They have to have that basic skill set. They have to have that talent level. They have to have all that. And then you get them a little bit better. When it comes to, look, I'm not saying there's not a difference in creativity. Ben Johnson's at the top of that scale. Maybe the Eagles are near the bottom of that scale, but there's many ways to win football games, and the biggest part of it is execution, which I know people don't like that as well. The fun stuff is fun when it works. When it doesn't work, you're like, oh Jesus! And I bring up the Jameson Williams play, and I'm not a great player, great receiver, dominating player. Your season's on the line. You're trying to be creative. Why? You have Jared Goff, the most accurate quarterback in football, arguably. Drop him back, throw the football to Amon St. Brown, who's always open on third down. Extend your season. Don't run a reverse throw with Jameson Williams, who, again, is not used to doing that. Throws an interception, their season's over. It's a very fine line. Look, when you're up 40-20, go nuts. And would it be fun to see the Eagles do some of that stuff? Sure. I guess, but to me, the Eagles have the best philosophy. Like the Eagles' philosophy, and I know this because I talk to them all the time. They never think they're at a talent deficiency level in this era, certainly since 2022 when they took off. Like, it's stunning. I even call it hubris at times. They're like, we're not worried. We got this, we got that. And they're right. They out talent people. So when you have better talent, you don't need gimmicks. You need gimmicks when you don't have better talent. and then you have to do some different things. And
right. I understand that part. I still think when you have great talent, there's some things you can do to try and get there. And I think you're going. I agree. I don't want to go to the extremes of AJ Brown's throwing passes in the playoff games, but I don't know. I mean, I hear you. The other part of it, John. I think some people, and I don't want to speak for anybody but myself, but I've noticed that I think people leave out like the human element of this game. Like these guys aren't robots.
Well,
Like fans are like, AJ should just shut up and not care. I'm like, really? You think AJ got to this point in his career by just not giving a shit? Not, as long as we win. Like at the end of the day, people have to remember this because I think a lot of people have become Jalen Hurts fans and not actually looking at the whole pie because, all they want to do is quantify and justify Jalen Hurts and where he ranks in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is the one who gets the glory at the end of this, okay? No matter what they do. If Saquon Barkley carries the team again, and they win another Super Bowl, in the history books, Jalen Hurts will get the glory because he'll be the Super Bowl winner. If they have a number one defense again, Jalen Hurts will get the glory because if they win 3 Super Bowls, he could throw for $2,500 a year. He's still going into the Hall of Fame. Nobody else. AJ,
well, they're going to have a bunch of Hall of Famers, but I agree. I say it all the time. Like quarterbacks are, yeah. I mean, and that's part of the gig. They get the bad as well. So. Ultimately,
people just act like that doesn't matter, though. Like, dude, these are human beings. That matters. They care.
It'll matter. It'll matter because football is cyclical, and believe it or not, and I know people don't believe it. They're like the Jalen Hurts truthers don't believe that he will ever have difficulties. He will if he plays long enough. I guarantee it. Because everybody, including Tom Brady, including Peyton Manning. Everybody has had difficulties, and he will be no different because it is cyclical. As good a job as Howie Roseman does. When you win consistently and you start drafting, you say, well, he gets Shahad Campbell. Again, it's a lot easier to get great players that when you're all of a sudden you look at Detroit, who was so bad for so long, and you wake up one day and you go, Jesus, they got great players all over the place because they pick so high in the draft year after year after year after year. And they finally got a good GM and they finally doing some right things. And it creeps up on you. Same thing happens from an attrition standpoint, which you are seeing in Kansas City, who drafts at the bottom every year. And not only the bottom of the first round, the bottom of the second round, the third round, the fourth round, everything, the whole thing. And it becomes more difficult. And you have the run, and then the run is over, and you have some struggles, and hopefully you get back as quickly as possible. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts in that essence is no different than any quarterback. And that's where I disagree with a lot of people. It's the same in every city. They're hyper-focused on the quarterback in every city when they have a poor game, even when they are a good team. They get a lot of shit. And when they win, they get more glory than they deserve. Well, and everybody knows it.
It's a good thing that our leaders say that. I'm not disputing that, but it's also easier for Jalen and Nick Sirianni to subscribe to that philosophy because, again, they're the two that will get all the glory at the end of it. AJ,
they also get the most shit, though.
Yeah, but
like Nick gets shit on a weekly basis when they win, and Jalen gets shit on by certain people on a weekly basis when they
just
win.
Insinuate though that AJ Brown should just shut up and you're winning.
Well, I don't agree with that. I'm not.
No, I know you don't. I'm just speaking in general. I think there is a feeling of that, and it's like, no. That's not how you get to this point. That's not how AJ Brown got here. And he's a human being. He's not just going to say, this team where I'm here today and probably gone.
Well, that's why I bring up all the time. Like, and I always use the NBA comparison. Like, I have tremendous respect for Larry Brown as a basketball coach. I have tremendous respect for Phil Jackson as a manager of people. One's got 1 million titles and the other one's got one. And he's got some in college, whatever. But what's more important? Like if I have an end of game sequence, I want Larry Brown drawing up something schematically. If I want to get through 82 games and win a championship with massive egos like Kobe and Shaq on the same team, I want Phil Jackson managing people. What's more important? The managing people is more important. If you want to be honest, I don't think many people agree with that. I think that's one of the things the Eagles have they have a lot of advantages, but that's too many people are hiring guys they're doing this has become a cliche in the NFL. If you're hiring a scheme, you're doing it wrong. And yet everybody hires a scheme. Everybody. The Eagles hire a scheme, believe it or not. It just morphed into, sort of lucked into it. Nick Sirianni was brought here to call plays from his offense in Indianapolis. He sold Jeffrey Lurie on shifting from Andrew Luck. Look what we did. Look what we did with Jacoby Brissett. Look what we did with Phillip Rivers. We can build an offense around anybody. That turned out to be true, by the way, and he deserves credit for it. So that part he doesn't get enough credit for. But his strength as a coach is managing people. And you have these issues, and he had these issues last year, and he did it well. And we'll see if he does it well this year. But it's not going away, especially in where the basketball comparison doesn't even compute is that you not only have 15 guys, you have 70 guys. And some of them don't like each other, believe it or not. And some of them, it could be outside of work. So it could be politics. Everybody's a dick about politics. You got conservative guys, you got liberal guys. You got all these people. Think about the next 70 people you meet. They're not all going to think the same way.
Yeah.
Why people think that happens with football players, that everybody's on board. Oh, everybody's going to. It ain't that way. It's never that way. Wasn't that way last year. But when you have somebody like Nick Sirianni who keeps it all together, you got a better chance than if you have a guy who's just overwhelmed. And some of the guys who are hyper-focused on scheme are overwhelmed. I'm not even talking about game day. I'm talking about preparation. I'm talking about keeping people on the same page. All the bullshit cliches you hear, tough detailed together. That's motivational speak. I'm not a motivational speaker. Like if I see a motivational speaker, my eyes roll. I'm like, people are buying this shit. I automatically think they're grifter. I automatically think. But it doesn't matter what I think. If you can get people on the same page, and Nick Sirianni's proven he gets more people on the same page than other coaches.
That's true. That's fair. Let's get a couple super chats here. Then we got BLG coming up next. Brandon Lee Goutton, looking forward to talking to him. Philly Don, $20. Thank you, Philly Don. I appreciate it, man. He says they have to take the handcuffs off of Hurts and let him play his game. He's going to throw ints, but he does what he needs to do to win games. Got to open up the passing game more and get AJ and Smitty more involved. I agree on the surface, but I don't know. Maybe they're not going to do that, John. Even without
maybe people should start changing their thinking at least until they start losing a game or two. Maybe playing the way they play has helped them win 20 of 21. I don't think
John,
there's maybe about it.
I'm going to push on you, and you can tell me to shut up if you'd like. You used to tell me all the time, don't let winning or winning the Super Bowl mask that there's problems. Just because you win.
I've never said that. I've never said that's I think people need to tone down. This should be one of the best offenses in the history of football because you think they're that talented. There is no evidence of that.
So do you think they can be sustainable with this year without that number one defense?
No, but I think a lot of it will take care of itself. I do think that. A lot of it is circumstance. Like I said, if you go through last season, we can talk about this with BLG as well. Yeah. If you go through last season, you had a bunch of these types of games. They didn't happen as much early because they hadn't made the shift to how they play now. They happened in Carolina, Baltimore. These types of ugly passing games. There were a bunch of them. And then you would have a corrective game and everybody go, and then you win the Super Bowl at the end and nobody cares. Nobody remembers the struggles, the bad games, and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I agree with wholeheartedly. First of all, if you win the Super Bowl, you're not perfect. There's always things to improve. And the Eagles do that. They're not sitting there not trying to improve. But I do think the games will come. The Pittsburgh games will come, and you'll be okay for a week and then say, oh, they figured it out, but they haven't figured it out. They'll go back and having another shitty passing game. But as long as they get to the end game, it doesn't really matter. I think people now have to readjust and stop with they should be the 606-point Denver Broncos or the greatest show on turf because they have this much talent. There is no evidence that is possible.
Yeah, I don't want that. I'm looking for 200 passing yards a game.
Well, that should be doable.
I don't know how much. I don't even know what's that, 3,400 a year. I mean, I don't know
that should be doable. But you are going to have these outlier games where it's going to be 130, 140.
Yeah, I know that. I'm not trying to correct it all. I'm just, I think in general that the approach this year will have to be modified just a little bit if you don't have that number one running game. So we'll see. We'll get to all the super chats. We appreciate it. Philly Don, thanks for that super chat. Let's bring up our boy Brandon Lee Goutton, BLJ from BleedingGreenNation.com. Go and read him at BleedingGreenNation.com, one of the best Eagles websites there is. BLJ, a lot to talk about in Eagle Land. How you doing this Wednesday morning, my friend?
Yes, indeed. A lot to talk about for a team that is 4-0 and has gone through a tough schedule here to begin the year, but still a lot to dissect.
Yeah, if you told me they were 4-0 at this stage, I would have said, well, they're in good shape. And all we do is talk about the negativity. So I get why that gets on the Eagles. But I think you heard my rant there. That's where I am. Mike Gill brought it up last week, and I said, you know what? Maybe we should stop talking. The mentality that this should be one of the greatest offenses ever because of the talent assembled. Maybe if we knock that out of our heads, maybe we can get to readjust it and get to a more common place where okay, they need to get better, but it's never going to be that. Do you agree with that or do you disagree?
I mean, I don't know if it has to be one of the best of all time. I just think that when they go so cold like they do, it's hard to fathom. Like, how can you have the kind of first half you did against the Buccaneers and not just fall off? Because, okay, let's say, they weren't as hot in the first half as they were in the second half, but they moved the ball a little bit. Like, they had a drive or two that they, at least they were doing some things, kicked a field goal after gaining 60 yards. That's not what's happening here. Like, they are just totally not functioning at all in some of these halves. And it's other than, the defense giving them a short field to work with, like they did in the Rams game, like they did here in the Bucs game. I just can't fathom how they could be that terrible with the personnel they have, where they're basically going backwards on a number of these drives. Like, they can't even get positive yardage. That's just hard to explain.
The valleys are too low, BLG, right? I mean, I'm not asking to be, again, the greatest show on turf, but I do think the valleys are too low. I mean, I brought up this stat a little earlier in the show, BLG, and we're lucky the defense is holding the way they are. They lead the league right now in 3-and-outs, BLG, over 45%. That is a crazy rate of 3-and-outs for an offense. And in the long term, in my opinion, that's just too much to ask of any defense. I mean, I think it is, at least, to expect them to keep coming out and being able to play on such short rest like that. So, what do you think they have to do to try and get it going, BLG, or at least be a little bit more consistent? Not that they haven't got it going. They are 4-0. I don't want to dismiss that, but I've said to John, I don't think they can go back without Saquon running historically like he did last year and the defense being number one overall in football last year. That combination allowed you to win a way that defied modern football. Without those two things, I'm not so sure they can do that again. And then on the other hand, I watched them get close to winning a Super Bowl with A.J. Brown getting 1,500 yards, with Jalen Hurts second in the MVP voting. I'd like to see a little bit of the bridging of the two philosophies. Is that too much to ask? Am I off base? What do you think, BLJ?
No, I don't think that's too much to ask. I think that makes sense to me. I wish the coaching staff would kind of trust the players a little bit more at times. And a case in point, this was a really good nugget here from Bo Wolf, who pointed out the Eagles are leading or second in the league, I should say, in design run percentage on 3rd and 11. And it's like, it's an insane rate. It's 58%. It's a small sample considering, there's been 4 games, but we've seen it. You get to 3rd and long and it's like, well, just give up, just punt, like do a run and then punt the ball. And like, that's just crazy to me, especially in the context of, you look at the Bucks game from Sunday, Jalen Hurts was having this awesome first half. No one would disagree. They get a 3rd and long late in the second quarter there. And it's like, well, we just have to play for a field goal. We can't possibly go for a first down here, or at least, make a short 4th down and maybe try to go for it then at that point when you have an unstoppable, play that you can run on 4th and short. Part of the issue there again is just that, like, I think sometimes the coaching staff, I'm confused about what they're seeing out in the field. It seems like Jalen Hurts has that awesome first half, and it's like, well, we can't possibly trust him right now. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I think they do need to get more aggressive. I think they need to trust the quarterback, who I think has not been perfect this year, but has largely played well, and empower him more than they have.
Trust is an interesting word, BLG, because sometimes I get the feeling that what you just said, they don't trust the quarterback enough. On the other hand, I think the quarterback doesn't trust the receivers enough, and I don't think the ball comes out on time too many times. And in certain situations, when you have playmakers like you do, you give them the trust and say, all right, this is the NFL, small window. My guy's going to come down with the football. It seems to be sort of a down the food chain, a lack of trust. And then when you take the running game out of it because it hasn't been effective, I think it turns into this ugliness. But I would add, and we're never going to get this answer, so I want your thoughts. Is it just as simple in this game because it was more dramatic than usual? He's playing great, and then it's nothing. 0 for 8. And he got hit, and he looked loopy.
Mm-hmm.
And they stayed in the game. And I think there's this mentality around that the NFL has this magic concussion test that can tell you have a concussion or you don't have a concussion. And that's kind of bullshit, to be honest. And I've talked about this with Malcolm Jenkins in the past, and things have improved. But players try to stay on the field. Mm-hmm. You saw it against Washington last year. What was Jalen Hurts doing coming out of the tent when he was diagnosed? Grabbed his helmet, was trying to get back on the field. Jalen's a guy who's going to try to get back on the field. Maybe it was just that, because he was out of sorts. And not only you can talk about the creativity and the lack of patterns. I mean, the throws were brutal coming up a first half where the throws were crisp and going the right direction to the right receiver. Is it just as simple as he was banged up?
I think it's fair to wonder. We don't have enough evidence conclusively to say, but I don't think that explains the first half of the Rams game, right? Like, there's been too much. Like, there's been too much of these halves, or there's too much of inconsistency where I believe that would be the sole issue in just one game. But I do want to see. I want to see where he's at with the injury report and everything today. I'm guessing that there won't be anything, considering that he finished the game.
It's different. It's different with quarterbacks,
for sure. Yeah.
If you're a center, you're ruled out.
Right.
If you're a quarterback, let's take a look at this. So I think that part of it. But then the second aspect is, they are so good. It's such a bizarre situation. They're 11 for 11 in the red zone. Their EPA this year is higher than it was last year. It's like, do we just have to accept this is a weird team and they play well in high leverage situations? Is that the ceiling of this particular team? And if it is that bad?
Definitely weird. That's for sure. Is it bad? Yeah. I mean, it can be bad when it's this extreme. I think the red zone stuff, while I think there's some reasons to believe that the Eagles could be better at that than other teams. Typically, I think we look at red zone performance year over year, and there's variance there. It's not something that's super like static. I don't know.
Well, I don't think they're going to keep up 100%.
Right, exactly.
I do think the legs of Jalen Hurts gives them a big advantage in the red zone.
Yeah, I think they'll be above average still, but yeah, I don't think they're going to be necessarily perfect going forward. So, part of that, and that's part of the whole equation here. There's certain things that the Eagles have been able to do, obviously, block field goals, block punt, that while they deserve credit for it at some level, because it's not just pure luck, it's obviously not something you can sustain and rely on as much as some other things. And I guess that's what the crux of the argument is when it comes to, okay, you're 4-0, but how much of it is sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, you got the 11, or what are they, 11 for 11 or 12 for 12 in the red zone, and then you lead the league in 3 and outs. So it's like that again. That's where BLJ. I think
it's so bizarre.
The low can't be this low. That's probably the biggest thing. If they just make the valleys a little less low, they're going to be in really good shape. Well, what'd you make of AJ Brown on Twitter, BLJ, with all that stuff? I mean, you come out, you're 4-0. I get it. You obviously don't want your star receiver going to Twitter, but part of me believes that he's not wrong about the offense. That's a separate point. What'd you make of just the AJ Brown stuff after the game?
I have a hard time faulting him because I think it's insane. I think it's not normal that we have 2 games this year. AJ Brown had 1 target, 1 reception for 8 yards in the first one. Then he has 9 targets in this one, but it's 2 receptions for 7 yards. And it's just like, that's unfathomable. It's crazy. He has 151 yards on the season. That's like a normal game for AJ Brown. Like, or he can get 151 in one game without breaking a sweat. Like, it's crazy how they have not been able to get him more effectively involved. And I would be frustrated if I were him. And he's been talking about and has been frustrated about this. So this isn't like new. So I wouldn't, I don't blame him for feeling like he has to do something different to try to get these frustrations out. And when you're frustrated, sometimes you don't make the best decisions. You can say, okay, is that best for the team? Obviously, you can make an argument it's not, but like, it's crazy that we're here at this point. It's like unconscionable for him, I'm sure. So like, it's just, there's no good reason why we're at this point, and he has every reason to feel frustrated about it. And so therefore, like, I have a hard time faulting him for feeling the way he did and expressing himself, because I don't think it's productive for him to just be sitting on these feelings and getting really frustrated. I don't think that helps him. You can say there's a better way to channel it. I don't know. I think maybe ultimately the best thing is for him to just get these feelings out.
I think this one was a little bit different. I don't know if you saw it the same as me, and maybe AJ will quell it all today. Maybe he'll do it Thursday. Who knows? But to me, this is the first time. You know how many of those bullshit rumors cropped up in the offseason, mainly Boston-based, trying to manifest, well, he likes Mike Vrabel, maybe he'll come to the Patriots. It was all nonsense, one-sided nonsense. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time where, if this continues, and obviously he's on pace for 642 yards. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. But even if it ends up being 900 or 1,017 games, this is the first time where I thought maybe he doesn't want to be here anymore in this offense. Am I going too far with that, or you think that's a possibility?
I don't think he wants to be in this offense where he's not being utilized to this extent. I would agree, but that should be able to change, and the Eagles will be well served to do everything to change that. It shouldn't be that hard. That's my problem. Like, it's just, how is this rocket science? Like, there's no complicated element to this. They know exactly how good he's been. He's been amazing here in the past. How is this that challenging to get him more involved than he's been to this point?
Can I flip that on you and say, like, what about this coaching staff screams that they don't know what they're doing? Because if they don't know what they're doing, like, who does? Like, nobody can beat this freaking team. I'm a big talent over coaching guy. I mean, that's the reason. Also, I think they're so successful because they have so much talent. But this coaching staff has proven itself. I mean, Nick has proven himself. You got to go back to John Madden to find a guy with, and he's the only guy in the Super Bowl era with a higher winning percentage than Nick Sirianni. What about this coaching staff screams that they're, morons who aren't trying to fix these things and can't fix them, which leans me towards the players, which start to think, all right, is it the quarterback? Is it the offensive line? Is Saquon not the same? Is AJ not the same? People have brought that up, but he's got 100 yards against the Rams. What differed from week to week?
Yeah, right.
I can't blame the coaching staff as much as the players. I never do, in good times or bad times. What do you look at first with this offense when it comes to the performance on the field? Forget the scheme, forget the lack of creative, just their performance.
Yeah, it's all of those things. It's not just one of those things. I think that's the biggest thing that kind of always gets missed in these conversations, because it's so easy to just be like, oh, it's this one thing and want it to be that one thing, because then you just change that one thing, problem solved. Or maybe it's just like a human condition thing. You just want that one target. It's easy to just key on that, as opposed to be like, well, it's all these things. Because then when you say that, then you're like, well, then all these things have to change, and that's not really fun to think about. You're changing all these levers. So it's definitely not just the coaching staff. I'm not going to say that, but whoever it is, it should not be this hard. And the coaching staff, although it's not all on them, they are, a big part of figuring this out ultimately and diagnosing it if there are problems and trying to do their best to come up with solutions to get things going. And it feels like they should, and that's the other reason why I'm saying it's unconscionable. Because to your point, John, if they are having this much success, it really shouldn't be this challenging to kind of resolve this. So I just can't believe it's been a talking point. There's no way back in the offseason any of us would have thought this would be an issue going to the extent that it has been 4 games into the season, where AJ Brown only has 151 receiving yards. That is just 6 first downs.
He's on pace for 640 yards. BLG. That's a wide receiver 3 in most offenses.
He's caught half of his targets. That. That's just all of that is crazy. It's just, I can't believe it. I'm sure he can't believe it. I would guess he wants to get it turned around here. I don't think he's quitting by any means. But it has to change fast.
I agree. BLJ, let's go over to that defensive side of the ball right now. I know they're not ranked at the top of the league right now, but again, I put a lot of that on 2 halves of football where your offense barely moves the ball. I mean, that's going to make your defensive numbers a little bit worse when you're giving up yards, but they're one of the best red zone defenses in football right now. I believe they rank 3rd in the NFL in red zone defense. I think they look really good despite being ranked. I think they're 22nd ranked overall in total defense or whatever it is, but I think they look really good. What have you seen from the defense? Am I overstating it? Maybe they don't look as good in your eyes. What do you think from the defense so far through the first 4 weeks?
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. I think their performance against the Bucs was a little bit better than it seemed. Obviously, you can't just take out the big plays. They happened, but I don't think those big plays were really indicative of these glaring flaws with the defense as a whole, as much as sometimes a player like Baker Mayfield is going to make plays, especially out of structure. And that happens at times. When he had to play in structure there, he was holding the ball for, I believe, fewer than 4 seconds. He's one of the worst success rates of his career in that game. So when the Eagles were able to contain him and make him play within structure, they're doing an awesome job. He made some plays. Even the plays he made there, Jahad Campbell's in decent coverage against Bucky Irving running down the sideline there. He had a lot of time to
cover for that long.
Exactly. That is worth highlighting. You might need some more pass rush there. But then the 1-2 on the Makuba busted coverage. Both Reed Blankenship, who ranged over, and Makuba almost had a chance to break up that play still. like kind of crazy that got completed. Obviously, it didn't happen, but it wasn't like he was just wide open without.
No, I think if Makuba tracks that ball, it's an interception.
Exactly,
pretty easy interception.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't look at those two plays and say, oh, the defense played awful, as much as okay, there's some things to clean up there, but on the whole, the majority of it, they played pretty well. And even though, you can worry about certain things like, the pass rush and that, I think the floor for this defense is still pretty high, and you have to feel good about that unit.
Vic mentioned Nakobe will be back. They'll start his practice window maybe today or next week. He wasn't clear, but over the next 2 weeks. But he also said Jihad's not moving an edge rusher. So, and he spoke again, he said that multiple times, by the way. He doesn't look ready, so it makes sense, but to play on the edge. But he also has this tremendous respect for Nico Dean. At the end of the day, though, you can't take Jihad Campbell off the field. Is this the situation where he's just going to be a backup special teams player? And, it's an embarrassment of riches, but there's no real – he's not playing 3 linebackers. He said that as well, at least at linebacker. Just a bad situation for Nakobe, right?
Yeah, it's really tough for him going into a contract year here. Like he needs to play and prove he's healthy and prove he can still play well to earn another contract here. Maybe he has to take a 1-year prove it deal, regardless. But I don't know what his trade value would be, but you might want to look into that just based on how Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Smile Munden relatively looked good in the offseason as well. So you feel like, okay, you have some depth there as well. Knock on wood, maybe there's an injury sooner than later that just forces Nico Dean into playing time. And
you never want that to happen either.
Right. Which is why I don't know if I trade him because, what do you guys realistically think it would get? A 5, a 6? I mean,
I think it's got to play to prove he's healthy to be.
That's what I mean. So it's like I'd almost just rather keep the depth than grab another 6-round pick. You know what I mean? I'd rather feel good about if there is some sort of an injury. But I agree. It's pretty crazy to think about. You played that good last year, and you're looking at
and just covering this team for as long as I and BLG have. I mean, this was a linebacker freaking dump.
I know.
And now all of a sudden they have the best linebacker room in the NFL. It's pretty amazing how quickly that has shifted. And Zack Baun, I can't say enough about that guy, man. He is unbelievable, BLG. Yeah. The consistency, the ability to do everything. He's a great pass rusher. He's great in coverage. He stops the run. He can call signals. He can not call signals. Boy, that's one of the greatest free agent signings ever. And Vic deserves tons of credit. Why can nobody figure out this guy could be an all-ball linebacker? It's astonishing. And even Zach didn't know. He's like, I don't know. When am I going to rush the passer? It is one of the amazing stories. There should be a book written about that someday if he continues to play at this level. Because he sat in New Orleans for 4 years and they had no freaking idea. It's amazing to me.
He's allowing just a 39.6 passer rating in coverage this year, which is
like unbelievable.
That's insane. And it's really, I don't think there's a major concern that he wouldn't be, good again in 2025. But it was a question mark because he was just so good coming out of nowhere last year. It was like, okay, is this a 1-year wonder? How much is this for real? Turns out it's very much for real. And he's just been an absolute stud. And it's almost to the point where what I always think is impressive when a player kind of just graduates to a certain level where then it becomes no longer that impressive that they're playing well. Because it's like, yeah, that's what we just expect from that player because they're great. And I feel like he's like getting to that point.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Yeah. No doubt. Bill G, what are you seeing on the offensive line this year, man? A lot of talk about them right now on social media and everywhere. And I don't think it's all wrong. They're clearly not the offensive line that they were a year ago. I think Landon's dealing with some injuries. Cam coming off a back injury hasn't been the same. I actually don't think Steen's been that big of a problem. Now, I know you lost Mekhi Becton, who had the ability to decleat anybody on any given moment, so maybe you lost that. But what have you seen so far from the offensive line, and how much do you put on them in terms of why Saquon's averaging three yards a carry as opposed to what he did last year, which was over 5.5.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an issue relative to being just the unmitigated strength it was, I would say, last year. You pointed out Dickerson just not being 100% there. Really, a bunch of, Lane has been in and out a little bit here. Like, they haven't been their full force, healthy versions of what they could be. So maybe there's hope if they can get to that point, they will be better. But it just doesn't feel like you've gotten the top performance out of that unit. And when it comes to Saquon, I have like no concerns about Saquon himself. I still, because he'll have these runs here where he's getting hit in the backfield, or there's someone in his face in the backfield. He still turns it into a 4 or 5 yard run. Like, he can still do that. If you could actually get him some space to work with, I'm sure he'd be taking off a lot more like he was last year. So I think it's the run game as a whole. I don't think it's just the offensive line, because you have to look at how they're operating out of these condensed sets and how that just is not effective for them. And you're asking
inside zone, whoop, inside zone, whoop.
It's Grant Calcaterra blocking, but really just getting crushed. So it's really
Grant's not having a good year, by the way.
No.
Yeah.
And John points out the loss of Johnny Wilson has been more impactful.
I think
it definitely hurts.
Yeah.
Especially in those condensed sets. When they would use 13, they put Johnny Wilson out there.
Yep.
A lot of times. At Brandon Goutton, make sure you follow BLG on the X platform. BleedingGreenNation.com. I always say your one-stop shop for Eagles news. Hit there every day if you want to know what's going on with this football team. And there's always something going on with this football team, BLG. My biggest concern, I'll leave it there with you, remains edge rusher. Now Obo's down. Nolan Smith is probably going to be out. Best case scenario after the bye, Green Bay is looking what they're targeting. So you're down multiple guys at the same position, which is always an issue. And I think it was one of your weakest positions depth chart-wise to begin with. So now you're down to Jalix Hunt playing major snaps. He's probably not ready for that. Zadarius Smith, I thought Zadarius played well in Tampa, but he's probably topped out at about 35. You don't want to play him more than that, or he'll start to wear down. Josh Uche looks like a 25 to 30 guy, and now Azeez Ojulari's got to step up, and it didn't look like Vic wanted to play him. 4 games inactive. How concerned are you with the edge rushing situation?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Eagles keeping 7 players at that position ultimately worked out, even though it didn't seem to make a lot of sense there for a bit. But I mean, they have enough where I think it's not like it's a total liability of a position where they're getting like blown off the ball and they can't just they're totally just unplayable there. But the impact you're looking for, and I just go back to what I was saying about Baker Mayfield and having all that time to throw, you need a little bit more juice there. And it just feels like if Howie Roseman, could add some kind of difference maker, it might be there on the edge. I mean, obviously, he reportedly had interest in Micah Parsons, so certainly that he would be open to adding a high-profile edge player here. I don't know if the right fit is still out there for them. But
hoping Miami would lose and they'd say, hey, let's throw Jalen Phillips.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I was hoping the Jaguars suck.
I was going to say the Jags aren't going
to. But they're good all of a sudden. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, so I don't think there's like a no-brainer acquisition. You can say Trey Hendrickson. I don't know that really lines up with what the Eagles want to do in terms of age and money there. Yeah. But it feels like, okay, they're in a spot here where they can get a little bit an evaluation of what this looks like over the next couple of weeks, and then obviously in a month's time, where the deadline comes up, that's where we can see them make a move.
Yeah, BLG, last one for me, man. We appreciate you joining in. Just your quick thought, man, on the Broncos game coming up. Tough opponent, AJ Brown drama, and you got Pat Surtain coming up. So a kind of a good opponent from that regard. Just your early thoughts and maybe a prediction if you have one on the game coming up this weekend.
It's so hard to know what to make of this offense. Just going off of how they can look great, and then I can also look just totally ineffective going up against a tough Denver defense that ranks just tied for second in the league in points allowed this year. Obviously, it was good last year as well, so that'll be challenging for this offense. We'll see what they can do. See if they can get right at all against them. Who knows? I think Bo Nix, can make some plays, can also give up some plays too. So I think, you like the Eagles defense, their chances.
I like Vic against the young quarterback, BLG.
Absolutely.
I like that matchup. Nick
Another thing
Benito concerns me, but
he's very good.
Yeah.
The Broncos are 1-7 in their last 8 road games here, so they have struggled a bit on the road away from Mile High. So I guess that's worth highlighting there. But I'm gonna say it's another close game. That's all the Eagles apparently do, and they'll probably win because it's impossible to pick against them. And I'm sure until they do it otherwise, I'm not gonna say they make it look pretty.
How about a fake punt to win this week? You
Oh,
already got the block field goal, the block punt. Why not a fake punt to win this week?
I think Braden Mann's the best punter in football right now.
Well, he can already handle the ball. We know that.
Yeah, right.
They gave him the ball.
Right.
Poor Braden Mann will end his career with negative 30.
That's
34. By the way, I was like, why? I said that, BLG. I was like, but if you're going to just run it out, why not keep the ball in the hands of Jalen Hurts? He knows what to do. He handles the ball all the time. And I wasn't even thinking. I'm thinking about winning the game.
Right.
So, and I'm like, well, that means negative 34 yards on his stat. And they didn't want to do that. So it's interesting. I did, for all the talk about just win, they are concerned about stupid stats like that will get lost in the context later in the season when a great running game for a quarterback would turn into a bad running game on paper.
Yeah.
Just because he ran out of the end zone at the end.
Right.
Of the game. It's interesting, but anyway.
Good stuff, BLG, man. We appreciate you joining in as always. We'll talk to you again next week, probably after another Eagles win with probably some controversy on the back end. BLG, thank you, brother.
Sounds good.
Thanks, bud.
Joining us here on Birds 365. Great stuff from BLG. Great show today. Appreciate everybody for being here today. Don't forget to hit that like button. A lot of good commentary going on today, John. We got some super chats we will get to real quick. What's the agenda for the Birds today? I know you're going down there.
Oh, Wednesday. It is a big day. Nick Sirianni, noonish, practice 3:05, locker room 4:45. Jalen Hurts will talk in the locker room, period. So biggest day of the week for a Sunday game, Wednesday. So all day affair, all day sucker.
Yeah, I'm hoping AJ speaks. I'm hoping AJ speaks today. Here we got some supers. Appreciate everybody. Brian Pump says, I'm not worried about a defense that is led by Alex Baby Arm Singleton. You guys remember Alex Singleton? He was the
Alex Singleton
on the Eagles one year.
Yeah, Alex Singleton is a good football player, and I'm proud of that because when he was here, I was like, this guy can play.
I know his agent real well. I'm actually friends with him, so I like when he does well.
Yeah. So
look at this though.
Again, dummy comment by Pumper. Alex Singleton.
He's picking the Birds though. Sorry, we're gonna smoke this team. Eagles by a gazillion. He's 0 for 4 in the year.
Yeah. Dumb comment on Alex Singleton too.
Brian Pump again. Is there a reason why QB1 takes an eternity to hand the ball off to Barkley on inside zone runs? Like, buddy, you're not reading shit. Just use some urgency.
Well, it's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of Jalen. For all the people that say Jalen gets too much credit, he does, but he also gets too much blame. He gets shit on a lot. So but that's the quarterback position. It's the same. Right. Where I argue with people, it's the same everywhere, whether you know it or not. It's the same everywhere in every NFL city. Every quarterback.
I get it. Kimberly says, AJ passive aggressive, just like us women. Whatever. Kimberly, I'm happy you can admit that. That's a big step. Not all women are willing to take on that accountability.
Well, AJ's a deeper. Sometimes he's passive aggressive. He was passive aggressive. Sometimes he's not.
I kind of got the sense that AJ was saying stuff subtly through the first 3 weeks. And
he was saying stuff.
That's what I mean. And like people are like, why is AJ on social? And I'm like, yeah, obviously you don't want him on social, but maybe they weren't listening to him. And like this was his way of getting them to listen to him. I don't know. I don't know. It's deep. We'll see what AJ says today. Jody Johnson. What's up, Jody? Big Play Slay said Vic made them do red zone first. Well, they're damn good in the red zone right now.
Yeah, they're
third in the league on defense.
I mean, and they're better on offense in the red zone. I mean red zone is why they're 4-0, offense and defense. And then special teams factors in as well. But yeah, red zone's been the strength on both sides of the ball.
Jody, appreciate the super chat, brother. Philly Down, we got your super. Thank you, my man. Kimberly says, Hurts better at finding Goddard. Subtle improvement. That's true. He's been going to Goddard.
Yeah, that seam throw was probably his best throw of the year. Typically, he doesn't fire that ball.
He actually had 2 of them, John. Well, he had the touchdown throw that you're talking about in the week prior, and then last week he had a nice seam throw to Dallas Goedert too, right over the linebacker.
He trusts Dallas, which you see it when Dallas isn't playing, and then all of a sudden the tight ends, and obviously they're not as good, but he doesn't trust them as much either. So yeah, he's been doing. When Dallas is on the field, they're better. So a lot of people said, well, they were 6-0 without whatever last year. Yeah, well, they won every game last year, but yeah, they're a different team when he's out there. And he's one of those underrated guys, and that's why you look at them individually all across the offense, and that's why people say they should be this, they should be that, they should be this, they should be that. But there's no real evidence of that. There's spurts,
right,
where you think, why can't you do that all the time? But they haven't shown that consistency.
18. What's up, Jason? 18. Appreciate it, brother. He says, on paper, this is a tough test for us. Every team we face so far besides Dallas has really good defenses. Hopefully we can break out soon. How you doing? I agree, Jason. It's good defense.
Yeah, on paper, well, like I always say, the NFL, everybody's got good players. Now in Denver, like I said, I don't like that matchup, Bo Nix against the Big Fangio defense. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, they have a very talented defense, and if they bring their A game, because you mentioned Surtain, he hasn't even played that well yet.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't had a great start to the year.
If they bring their A game, yeah, this will be certainly one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. I think their questions are on offense and whether or not the young quarterback can develop the consistency. He's not played well early this season. They got a nice little roadblock with Jake Browning and the Bengals. The Bengals are really struggling without Joe Burrow. But I don't know if that's the real Bo Nix and the real Broncos offense. Now, they have talent too. They have, Cortland Sutton. Remember that guy. That guy's tough to deal with. 50-50 guy, big guy, can dominate outside corners. J.K. Dobbins, they have a better running back. And their offensive line is, arguably, no question, top 5, or arguably the second best offensive line in the league to the Eagles.
Good stuff. 18. Appreciate it. Brian Pump, nothing about Denver's offense impresses me. I'm leaning Eagles this game. I believe we have a comfortable game. If
how does that offensive line not impress you? Come on, Pump.
I think it's just about Keely Ringo here with Pumper. He's happy Keely Ringo's playing because he's been talking him up all offseason. Now he's out there. Fredo says, Surtain said AJ will get the ball, but not Sunday. I saw that. He was on the Acho's show after the game.
All right. Yeah,
and he
said that.
Because they asked him about the drama, and he's like, yeah, they'll figure it out. AJ will get his ball, but not this week. So a little
I like the confidence. I like the confidence. Yeah, AJ will have similar confidence.
I agree. He just might not have confidence he's actually going to get the opportunities. JH said, saw an all 22 from breaking the birds on Ringo. Coverage, communication, and block destruction were actually very good. Tackling technique needs work. Yeah, and JH, I think he's going to get better at that because when you're used to tackling, running downfield 100 miles an hour on special teams, it's a lot different than tackling in space. So, John, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Keely's fine. I think he should be the starting corner. I think he will be, to be honest, moving forward, unless he has a really poor game. I don't think Adore's going to get that spot back. But at the same time, I'm mystified why Tampa Bay didn't test him more. Mystified to the point I'd be going to Baker Mayfield and go, "Hey, dude, what are you doing?" So I don't think he was tested, but yes, I think he played well. but I don't know how much that means because he wasn't tested.
All right. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thought? I know you got to run.
Yeah, big day. We'll see if AJ talks. He's generally been a Thursday guy. Might want to get it out of the way today because maybe he was egged on to get it out of the way today. But that obviously will be the big story of the day, and there will be 75 cameras camped out in front of his locker. And I will try to talk to him after that because obviously when those cameras are around, he's not going to say much, but we'll see. We'll see if it's today or tomorrow. But
Johnny Mac, yep. Johnny Mac, good stuff, brother. Appreciate you doing it today. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the Thursday edition of Birds 365. Thank you.
All right. Thanks all. See you.
All right. There's Johnny Mac joining us here on Birds 365. Great stuff today. Great show today. Mike Gill, Brandon Lee Goutton, two great guests. A lot of great commentary. A lot of pushback in the chat. We'll talk about all that right now. I don't know, guys. As an Eagle fan, I think things are good when you're 4-0, but the one thing we did or should have learned from the 2023 season is wins don't cover up everything. And when you have a different setup on your football team, as they do right now, you can't win the same ways. Just like 22, they went to the Super Bowl in a different way that they went in 2024. Okay? Running game's not working as well. Offensive line doesn't appear to be as good as they once were, or at least maybe they're banged up, and that's the reason they're not playing as good. So with that means you're going to have to shift, means you're going to have to play a different brand of football, means you're going to have to do things differently to improve your margin of error, means you're going to have to win games a different way. As much as all of you or some of you don't want to admit or acknowledge that, that appears to be the truth, at least to me. Again, you're 4-0. It feels good. That doesn't mean there's nothing to fix, and it certainly doesn't mean you're going to march your way through the year and win another Super Bowl. Do you have a good shot? Absolutely. But they could be 3-1 right now. They'd still have a good shot. They could be 2-2 right now. They'd still have a good shot. Hell, they could be 1-3 right now, and they'd still have a good shot. So just like the 2-2 didn't matter much last year, the 4-0 doesn't matter as much as some people say. And when you have A.J. Brown doing what he's doing, talking about what he's talking about, you know, the defense who has been exceptional, but is dealing with an offense that is way too inconsistent. I mean, you can just look at the stat. I keep showing it on the show, and I'll continue to show it. They lead the NFL in 3-and-outs. I'll say it again. They lead the NFL in 3-and-outs. That's a lot of pressure to put on your defense. So you don't have the same setup as last year. To insinuate we're just going to march our way through the same way doesn't make sense to me personally. I understand some of you guys don't like that take. I don't really give a damn. Okay, that's how I see this team right now. I still think they're the best team in football. And I'll say this for those looking for more optimism from me. I'll say this. This team is scary. Because if this team is able to put it all together, if this team is able to play consistently like they did in the first half last week or the second half versus the Rams, there's not a team in football that's even in the same stratosphere. In the same stratosphere. If you're going to play offense, defense, special teams, click on all cylinders, get AJ, Devontae, Goddard involved, have Saquon open up some lanes for Saquon. The defense is able to do what they're able to do. Braden Mann and Jake Elliott are going to perform the way they're performing. There's not a team in football that will come freaking close to them. But that doesn't mean you're going to be there every single week. That doesn't mean you're going to be playing at the optimal level every single week. All right? So a lot of great stuff to talk about. Look, the Eagles are in a good spot. They are in a good spot. And when you're 4-0 and you can learn, that's good. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean they have nothing to fix. All right. It doesn't mean they have nothing to fix. A.J. Brown is correct. A.J. Brown is correct. As much as some of you want to fight with me, we had some guys in the chat today who say, fuck you, hip hop can't stand the show because we talk about the thing. Hip hop, go to the fan zone or whatever you want to go to. Okay. A lot of stuff to improve. But again, the best way to look at this optimistically to me would be they're 4-0 and I think they've played at their best B-, C+, which is crazy because if they're able to get B+, A-, A+ like they did in the Super Bowl last year, nobody's touching us. Nobody's touching us. And that's the beautiful part about where this team is right now. But that's not a reason or an excuse to just look past some of the problems on the football team. Again, we won last year defying the way modern football is played. It was a great thing. When you defy the way modern football is played, you have historic things on the other side, historic running game, historic defense. Right now it doesn't appear that we have those things to that level. So if you lose 20% in the run game, where are you picking up that 20%? If you lose 20% on your defense being the best in football, where do you pick up that 20%? That's where I look to the other players. That's where I look to that $255 million offense. That's where I look to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to come out and perform, to come out and be a part of the offense, to come out and make the difference. And I think that's A.J.'s point. I don't think A.J.'s trying to pour water on what they're doing. But I think A.J.'s smart enough to see this can't be the only thing or the only way we approach the game. Remember, everybody, I know we won the Super Bowl last year by running and by not worrying about stats. We also came within one flag of winning with A.J. Brown with 1,500 yards and with Jalen Hurts second in the MVP voting. There's not one way to do this. There's not one way to do this. Right? There's not one way to do this. And I think they have to be open to change again, just like they were a year ago. Now, Nick has proven he will change, so I don't have any reason to believe if it gets to a certain point, they won't change. But they have shown up until this point that, they're going to play it their way. And again, it's hard to argue with the results, but I won't compare the season to 23, but what I learned from 23 is you don't just mask your problems because you have a W. Certainly not a W in September, like a lot of you are willing to do. I am not willing to do that. If you don't like it, that's perfectly fine. You can go find another show where you can debate me on it in the chat if you like the content, you just don't like what I'm saying. That's perfectly fine too, as many of you guys do. And I'll take some comments in just a couple seconds here, and we'll go back and forth on it. But the valleys are a little low for me. You can't have halves of football where you literally do not move the ball at all. It's just eventually it's going to catch up to your defense. Eventually it's going to be too hard to overcome. I'll give you guys a stat right now. From 22 all the way through 2024. Okay, so from the time that A.J. Brown became an Eagle, which was week 1 in 2022. It was his first regular season game as an Eagle. All the way through 2024 when the Eagles were crowned Super Bowl champions. Okay? AJ's first game to AJ's last game in 2024. There was 4 total halves in those 3 years of football. 4 total halves where A.J. Brown did not have a catch. Through the first 4 games of 2025, there's been 4 halves where A.J. Brown didn't have a catch. So in 4 games, you do what took you 3 years to do from a negative standpoint in terms of getting A.J. Brown involved. 22 to 24, 4 total halves with no catches. 25, 4 games in, 4 halves, A.J. Brown hasn't had a catch. That's pretty crazy. That's not something that however you slice it, that's not a positive thing. To have your number 1 player on offense, your highest paid skill position player, the player who is arguably the most talented player on the entire football team, that's not a positive. Now, if you say it doesn't matter because we win, maybe you're right, and I hope you're right all the way to the finish line. But that's not a positive thing, no matter how you slice it. So let's see what the Eagles are able to do. Let's see how they evolve. Let's see how they change their approach, late in the year here, or as not late in the year, but as we continue to move along, and I think the good part of it is it's very early. It's only September. Well, it's actually October 1st now. Happy October, everybody. Happy October. We made it to October. Another day alive, everybody. What a beautiful thing. Another day that we get to breathe the air. Another day that we get to talk about, consume, and think about our favorite football team. We are all infinitely blessed, okay? We are infinitely blessed to be here today. And I appreciate each one of you guys for being here today, even those who Might not agree, might think I'm dumb. That's perfectly fine. I appreciate you being here. I do. I always say that. So hit that like button for me. Drop your comments down below. I'll take some comments right now from all the great people of JAKIB Nation. All right. Let's see if we got any supers. We do. Philly Don, thanks for the supers today, brother. A 5 and a 20. Thank you, my man. Thank you, Philly Don. Hope you're doing well, brother. Hope James is doing well. Hope the whole family is doing well. He says, not feeling good about Sunday now, especially with Mr. Negative Brian Pumper picking the birds this week and putting the jinx on us. Philly Don, I'm here to tell you, jinxes are fake. They're bullshit. They should not be believed in or even thought about. Okay? Brian Pumper picked the birds. Good for Brian Pumper. About time you get on board. I think it has nothing to do with the impact of the game. What I will say is, for an offense that's been inconsistent, for a receiver that hasn't consistently gotten the ball, I just gave you the stat, 4 halves already this year where he hasn't had a catch. You are going up against a great defense, a good secondary, good players on that team, to be able to mitigate that. So what does that matchup look like? I think that's one of the great talking points coming into the season this year. All right, or this game, excuse me. So I think it's going to be a good one. But Philly Don, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not as I don't not feel good about the game. I don't not feel good about the game. I feel like the Eagles are still in a good position. But they got to keep moving, man. They got to keep improving, and that's where I kind of am on them. All right, that's kind of where I am right now. All right. Tony says, "Hey, Big Z, watch your interview on Bird Gang 31." Thanks, Tony. I thought it was great, man. I thought me and BG and JC got along well. It was a great show. I really enjoyed doing it with them, and I think those guys do a nice job, man. So I appreciated them having me on. It was a good show, a good conversation. Kind of refreshing for me, to be honest with you guys, because, I love what we do here on JAKIB, but sometimes, I'm used to talking to Cilio and John, who neither of them give a shit about the Eagles' success. They're not Eagle fans. It was refreshing for me to talk to some Eagle fans. I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed it. I appreciated it. I thought they were great guys. I thought they had great opinions, and I'm appreciative of them. I really am. So shout out to those two guys. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to their channel, man. Bird Gang 31. They do that show, I think, once or twice a week. The Truth Podcast, they call it, on Bird Gang 31 channel. So definitely go check them out. They do a good job, man. And they're classic good Eagle fans, man. They are. They're great Eagle fans. So definitely go give them some love and subscribe to their channel. Maybe I'll be on there again soon. So, he admitted that. So we were talking pre-show, man. We were talking pre-show, and JC's like, I'm the one that you'll talk real shit with. BJ will just tell you how great the Eagles are, and you saw that a little bit on the show. But at the end of the day, he's one of those homers that I love, Yeah, he was great, man. I really liked him. That's the first time I've ever talked to him on the air. I knew of his channel, like I've seen him on X here and there, but that was the first time I've ever talked to both of them. And I thought both of them were awesome, man. I really did. I thought both of them were great. So I appreciate them. And I appreciate you guys, by the way, for showing out in the chat. I think they appreciated that as well, that some of JAKIB Nation showed up. So thanks for doing that, and definitely give them a subscribe, man. There's enough to go around for everybody. All right. I've always believed that, and I always will believe that. I don't think one man's success takes away from another man's success. And I love to see him continue to grow. They do good work. So good stuff from them. Appreciate them having me on. Hearsay says, Zander, is it fair that AJ is looking at the gold jacket over team accomplishments? Well, Hearsay, as an Eagle fan, it's very easy for us to fall into the trap of, how can you care about anything other than team accomplishments? We're Eagles fans. That's all we care about. What's unfair is to expect A.J. Brown to not give a single shit about the output that he gives in his short period of his life that he has to be in the NFL, to dominate at his craft, to dominate at what he does best, to dominate at the thing he's been working tirelessly on his entire life. It's unfair, and it's bullshit, frankly, for a fan base to think that just doesn't matter to players because they're Eagles fans. Again, we're Eagles fans, so obviously we care more about the team accomplishments, as we should. But if you think A.J. Brown should just go through his career with a complete and utter sacrifice of self, when you see teams trade players, ship players out, replace players in one day, A.J. Brown rightfully cares about his personal accolades. Now, You don't want to let it become in the way of what your team goals are. But we can't just sit here and act like AJ's a fucking robot. We're winning. Don't ever think about what you could be doing in a game. That's fake talk, man. That's not real life. That's fake talk. It's fake fan talk. It is. That's what it is. Call a spade a spade. Players, athletes, particularly players who reach the top threshold of their craft, who dominate the way they have, who get to the point where they can even be referenced as a top 3, top 5 receiver in football. You don't get there this way. You have to have a healthy level of selfishness, of self-belief, of confidence, of, desire for the football. AJ has that. And by the way, hearsay, I don't think he's wrong. Talking about the team, I don't think he's wrong. You don't have a historic running game this year. Your defense, while it looks great, doesn't look like it's going to have the same type of output as last year. How do you make up for that? You have to be more versatile. You have to get more players involved. You have to do some things a little bit differently. In my opinion, the answer is glaring. It's so in your face, it slaps you stupid. It's so big and bold, there's nowhere else to look. What do? How do we make up for it? A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Simple to me. Simple to me. Right? Simple to me. I'll say this too. I'm not trying to rip fans, but I'm guilty of this too because I'm a fan too. Stop trying to muzzle A.J. Brown. People don't like you went to social media. I get it. You don't want him to go to social media. He said 3 things in 3 consecutive weeks. Go and listen to A.J. Brown after each game. He said multiple things. His outburst on social media after the win, almost so soon that you would assume he did it from the locker room. Literally, that's how quick he tweeted it out. Almost that quick. Would insinuate, I've said things to you. We've talked about this. You've told me you're listening to me, and then you don't apply anything that I say, which I have a problem with. So stop trying to muzzle A.J. Brown. He ain't a robot, as Crowley puts in the chat, as I tweeted out the other day. He's not a robot. He's a human being. He's an exceptional football player. He's one of the best football players on planet Earth. And if they're not listening to him, whether we like it or not, young people in today's world go to social media. I always get a kick out of this too because people are like, why go to social? So what if he did what Jamar did on the sideline? You think social media wouldn't have the same outburst? If he read a book like he did last year, you saw how that unfolded. No matter what AJ did, people would have a problem with it. And most of those people should just say they want AJ Brown to shut the fuck up. And I don't have that opinion. In fact, I had the opinion that AJ Brown probably knows more football than all of us. I don't like people that try and that are trying to muzzle. They're trying to muzzle. Oh, AJ, don't speak. AJ, don't do that. AJ, just shut up and get in line. Yo, dude, I'm on pace for 640 yards. Yo, dude, I have personal aspirations too. Yo, dude, I'm a human being too. Philly Don, $10 super chat. Thank you, Philly Don. Appreciate it. They have to open the playbook to get away with this friggin' vanilla offense and start doing more RPOs with more slants and crossing routes with AJ and Smitty. I agree, Philly Don. I don't know what it's going to look like. And to your point, you bring up RPOs and slants, and I'm not going to sit up here and profess to be the expert on how to run offense, how to get A.J. Brown involved, what to do things differently. But I will say this, and I've said this consistently, and people have a problem with me saying it, and I really don't give a rat's ass. Without the historic running game you had last year, you are fighting a very uphill battle in the modern NFL to win a Super Bowl without any thought of getting your 2-star receivers involved in the game on a consistent basis. Last year, again, it worked. They had a running back who ran for 2504 or 2503, whatever it was, and a defense that was the number one defense in football by a pretty wide margin. When you couple that with Saquon Barkley's season and what they did, you're going to have good results. And they proved that all the way through the Super Bowl. Right now, through 4 games, it's only 4 games, and it's only October 1st. I understand that. They don't have that running game. The defense, while it looks very good, I've been very happy with the defense. It doesn't look like it's going to be historic. Do you have the setup? Do you have the offense? Do you have the things necessary to win the crunch games in January and February, or January? You got to get to February in the Super Bowl. Right now, I don't believe they've showed it. Now, the one thing I will give the Eagles the benefit of the doubt on is they just seem to turn it on when they have to turn it on, which is a great thing to have. Jalen Hurts has that. You know, our coaches seem to have that. Everybody seems to have that. When crunch time comes, they get the job done. You know? Dirty Air says, man, I don't know. Our D is light years ahead of where it was this time last year. Yeah, but Dirty Air, the problem is right now, the offense's lows are too low. I brought it up already, and I'll bring it up one more time. When you lead the NFL, the entire NFL, when you lead the entire NFL in 3 and outs, when you have halves of football, entire halves of football, where you don't get anything going, 0 completions in the second half last week, -1 net passing yards in the first half of the game before, that is putting such an immense pressure on your defense. Even the best defenses would burst in that pipe, man. You got to get there has to be a complementary element to the football game. To lead the league in 3rd and 3 and outs, and then just expect that defense, okay, just hold up. We'll get our 23 points. Just hold up. I think that's an unfair expectation on a defense that really should be given some space to learn and grow as well. You know, it wasn't supposed to be the offense that needed the space early. It was supposed to be the defense. The defense is the reason we're winning games, though, not the offense. I don't know if that's something that you want to ride all year. But I hear you. I get where you're coming from. Brian Pump says, AJ Smitty looked pretty damn happy when number 16 was slinging the rock. Just saying, Tanner would have this offense humming. I will talk about the concerns. I will talk about what I think the Eagles can be doing better. What I will not sit here and do is tell you that a backup fucking quarterback is going to do better than the quarterback who's won damn near more games than every other starting quarterback in football. I'm not going to go down that road. Now, Pump, I know you like Tanner McKee. The backup quarterback's always the flashiest player in a sports city. Let's not entertain bullshit, all right? I've seen Jalen Hurts do everything. Pass, run, Super Bowl, MVP level performance, second in the MVP voting, damn near 4,000 yards. I've seen him do every brand of football. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. I'm not going to sit here and say, we got to go to the backup. Fuck that, Pumper. Come on, man. That's a stupid take. It is. It's a stupid take. We can talk about the problems, but let's not get carried away here. Let's not get carried away here. All right? Let's not get carried away. But look, those are my thoughts on the team right now. You know, I think the valleys are too low and they got to come up a little bit. Okay. Oh, is this true? Is this true? Eagles open Dean's practice window? Yeah, baby. APR, Antoine Powell-Ryland back to the practice squad, and the Kobe Dean's practice window opened up. All right, now the questions will come What does this defense look like? How do they use Nico Dean? Is he simply a bench player? Is Jahad Campbell locked in his role? Obviously, Zack Baun has done what he's done, but hey, Zack Baun's been a Mike this year. You know, is he better at Mike or is he better on the weak side? I don't know. I mean, last year he was a tremendous player. Now he's been pretty damn good again, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to think. You know, it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see, man. I'm curious to see. I'm happy for Nico, though, man. I'm happy for Nico. Nico really, really, really came alive last year. Really had a good year, man. Really a freaking really good year for this defense last year. Cannot discredit what he was able to do on the defensive side of the ball. His practice window is officially opened up. All right. See, Curtis, sometimes you drive me crazy, Curtis, which is everybody in this chat. Sometimes I absolutely love you because you have such a great way of thinking about the bigger picture at times when we get caught up in some of the intricacies or the inner workings or the inner season stuff. Curtis says, Zander, everyone talks about AJ's comments in the context of his own production, but I don't think that's fair to him. It's in the context of the offense being terrible. Nobody is producing. And I think Curtis brings up a really good point here where when AJ says it, everybody thinks AJ's mad. But Curtis brings up a point. We just talked about it. You have these valleys on this offense where you get 0 yards and a half, 0 completions and a half, -1 net passing yards and a half of football, 20 total yards and a half of football. Is that sustainable? Great point by Curtis. It's an absolutely great point by Curtis right here. It really is, because AJ's the voice. AJ's the guy who makes the post, and then everybody hones in on AJ and his production and all these things, but nobody is looking at the bigger picture. And Curtis, I think you did a great job of articulating that. Great comment, Curtis. Okay. Let me get some more comments here. Ray says, playing a 4-3 sometimes on early downs would help our run defense, which needs to get better. Yeah, Ray, the problem with that is Vic basically laughed at that. Now, if you have 12 personnel, and teams come out in that form and that, with that formation and that setup, then maybe you'd see it. But Vic literally laughed at the reporter who asked if they would use a 4-3 because of the return of Nico Dean and the emergence of Jahad Campbell. And he basically looked at him and said, like traditional linebackers. So as you're referring to in a 4-3, you got 3 guys playing traditional linebacker. He laughed. He literally said, no, not in the modern game. Never going to have 3 guys on the field that are playing linebacker. Now, if you want to talk about an edge rusher, if you want to talk, maybe, but Vic also has kind of denied that Jahad is ready for that. And I don't know if he would use Zack Baun in that role, despite me believing Zack Baun would be quite effective at it. I don't think they want to take Zack Baun from where he is. So, Ray, while I do agree with you, it would improve the run defense, certainly. Nico Dean was amazing against the run last year. I don't really think it's a plausible expectation for the Eagles defense to run any sort of 4-3. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't do that. He's not going to do that in the modern game. I don't think it's a realistic – I really don't think it's a realistic thing to think about. All right? Key says Jahad pass rusher play. I don't know, Keith. I mean, based on what Vic has said, I don't think they're going to do that, but I hear you. But all right, guys, I do feel pretty good, but I'm not afraid to be the voice of reason here where, it's okay to be 4-0 and just be like, all right, we got a lot of things to fix still. And that's how I feel. Honestly, I'm just speaking. I've always tried to speak honestly with you guys. I'm speaking honestly. Not everybody's going to like it. Hip hop couldn't stand it. He's been in here 4 days straight whining about me. Okay, hip hop. It is what it is. You want to go and listen to something else, that's perfectly fine. I don't think I'm being unfair. I don't think I'm being a hater. Certainly not. I think I'm just looking at the game and I have concerns. Could I be wrong? Certainly. I'm not trying to sit up here and profess like I know more than everybody. All right. But I'm just giving you guys what I see, at least what I think. Doesn't mean it's right. I agree, Crowley. Baun's too good to move him. I don't think they're going to move him. Tanner says, the fact that we say every year if this team can click on all cylinders, we're unstoppable, but that never happens. So this is just the team we are, as Sil says. That's what John was saying too. But Tyler, the problem with it is we've seen moments. The first half last week, I literally tweeted this out. When this team clicks like this, they look damn near unbeatable. When you have a special teams that does what they do, when you have a defense that created the type of pressure and the type of problems that Baker Mayfield and their offense had in the first half last week, and then an offense that's able to capitalize on their opportunities the way they did last week. When you're able to do that, now, again, it's a pipe dream to think you're going to be that every half of football. I agree. But when they show that, man, they don't – fucking nobody looks close. And Tyler, here's the other problem. The Eagles did reach that pinnacle, and they did click on all cylinders in the most important game of the year. They clicked on all cylinders in the most important game of the year, and they beat the Chiefs so bad it was almost embarrassing to be a Chiefs fan that week, even with their Super Bowl wins. That's how bad we beat them to a pulp. We beat them to a pulp so bad that we were resting starters. We had starters on the bench in the Super Bowl. When's the last time that's happened? I don't know. When's the last time starters literally got taken out of a game in a Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't know when the last time that happened. I'm sure it's happened at some point. I know there's been some big lopsided Super Bowls, but, Cody, good take. Zander, AJ wants to be heard like the O-line was last year. Yeah, and Cody, if you take that perspective, the O-line was right last year, right? Because what they were doing in the first 4 weeks wasn't working. I think AJ's right. Without the running game being dominant, without the defense being number one in football, we're going to have to get the passing game going a little more. It's a fair take, Cody. Although I still can't believe you sold that Mustang for a boat. I think that was you, right, Cody? You sold the Mustang for a boat. You should have bought a bigger boat and put your Mustang on the back of it. Tyler says, I'm a fan and happy with the wins, but look, Tyler, you don't have to quantify yourself by having concerns, dude. That doesn't make you a bad fan. I'm so sick of the people who are out there who are football fans. And do you not think about anything objectively in your life? Are you literally such a robot to the point of, score is this happy, score is this sad? What the fuck? You don't think about anything objectively. You don't think about anything through an honest lens. You don't look at anything. What does that tell you about your own life? Do you look at things in your own life objectively? I certainly do. I do the same in my fandom. I've always been this way. He says, I'm a fan happy with the wins, but I'm also unhappy with the inconsistency. But I'm coming to grips that it's just who we are, and AJ won't be here next year. I don't know if AJ won't be here. I'm not ready to say that. All right. Dank says we fire KP and them. We're not firing KP, Dank. I'm with you on that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing all that. Bruce says, what WTF was that? I don't know, Bruce. What are you talking about, dude? I say a lot of shit up here very quickly. What are you talking about, Bruce? I don't know what you're even saying. All right, Bruce. M. Reyes, quantify yourself as an Eagle fan so we may judge you properly. That's what you do, Reyes. That's what you do. Anybody that doesn't just glaze at 4-0 is the worst fan. Shut up. Crowley says, honestly, I would sell a Mustang for a boat too. A car is just a car. Yeah, Crowley, well, people that like cars don't think of cars like that. I hate to break it to you, but they don't. I'm fine with you I'm fine with you being your way. That's fine, Crowley. Most people think like that. But there is a subsection of the population, and I would fall in that subsection, that a car is not just transportation to them. All right. A car is a small part of their identity and a small part of the way that they wake up and enjoy their time on this planet. And that is for me. Okay. I always say we're blessed to be alive, and we are. And one of the ways that I feel blessed to be alive is to be able to get in the car and drive, spirited. I love doing it. I really do. I really do. Although I need a truck because my Corvette is great, but it's too small, and I'm ready to put it in the garage for a couple months through maybe to February or March. All right. Crowley, that's what I love about you, brother. I know you're like that, Crowley, which I appreciate, which I very much appreciate. Vote for a Mustang sounds like a steal, not for me. I'm out, man. You get me out on the water. Look, I like the water. I'm not afraid of the water or anything like that, but I never driven a boat. I've driven one in Florida. I got like the boating license. I did the thing online in like 20 minutes, and we're renting a boat. I'm literally have my whole family in a boat. I'm driving a boat out in the middle of the ocean, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know about this. I don't know, man. Not my comfort zone out there. Not my comfort. Much more comfortable in a car. All right. Much more comfortable driving my car. Vulnerable says we'll always have a truck. Yeah, Vulnerable. I'll never make that mistake again. What I should have done was just finished the truck and then got the vet. But it is what it is. You can't go back in time. All right. Can't go back in time. I wish I kept my truck though, man. I love my truck. And now I'm shopping for trucks, and none of them are as good as the truck I had. I'm mildly depressed that I got rid of a perfect truck. It was perfect. It was fucking perfect. I loved my truck. And now it's in the hands of somebody else. Oh, man. It is what it is. Ryan says people disappear out in the ocean every day. Look, human beings have inherited the earth for how long? I don't know. Whoever wants to come up with some sort of scientific theory or whatever. If you're religious, I guess you would know. Whatever. Whoever wants to believe what about when humanity started. We've accomplished a lot. Okay, we've conquered a lot as human beings, as a race of humans. We've accomplished and conquered a lot. You know what we have not conquered? You know what we have not taken over? The ocean. We have, I think we've discovered only 10%, 10 to 15% of the ocean that's out there. Think about that. That is not our land. All right. We've conquered all the land. Human beings have conquered all the land. All right. We've conquered 10% of the ocean. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, that ain't us, man. That ain't my territory. All right. That ain't my territory. Vulnerable says, I've been there, Zander. I let my old truck go. Regret it, but oh well. Almost got this one paid down, though. Probably get a fun car. There you go, Vulnerable. That's what I'm upset about, Vulnerable. My truck was basically paid off. I had 65,000 miles on it. It was a 2019. It was in perfect condition. I'd done all the service on it. I knew all the history. I mean, I literally owed like $4 or $5 grand on it, on a $40,000 truck. And then I traded it. To some measly general manager at a car dealership. SMH. Big Mike says, Zander, when becoming a member, where should I do it? Big Mike, wherever you want, brother. It's all good, man. The website pays me out a little bit more. If you want to go over there, jakibsports.com. If you want to have a green name and be a part of JAKIB Nation here on no, it wasn't a Ford. And you want to be a part of JAKIB Nation right here on YouTube, and become a member on YouTube. Big Mike, any of it's appreciated, my man. Really is. All right. I don't want to complicate that. Any of it's appreciated, brother. So thank you very much. Okay. The aliens conquered the ocean. Nobody conquered the ocean. Nobody. Dawood, I love Dawood's comments. He says, Mr. Been in the building for 5 years, Bobo KP. You've been pathetic. 1/4 of the season. Get your shit together, buddy. Oh, that's classic. That is classic. Yeah, it was a Ram, Denny. It was a Ram. It was a. Don't make me pull up a picture of my old truck. I miss it. Please. Please don't make me pull up a picture of it. Okay? I loved it, and I miss it. If I had my truck and my vet next to each other, I would be very happy, man. But, it's always coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's a good point, vulnerable on space, and it's a good point. But, all right, man, I love all you guys. I appreciate it. Toyota. Denny Mertz. Denny says, Toyotas run forever. That will be my next purchase. All right, Denny, you can get in line with the M. Reyeses of the world. I ain't buying no Toyota. By the way, Denny, that is now a fake narrative. Maybe the Toyotas of the 2000s and the 2010s and the 1990s, maybe that's true. Have you looked into the issues in the recent Toyotas, Denny? They are absolutely stone cold brutal. Brutal. They replaced 150,000 motors in Toyotas because motors were blowing up at 10, 15,000 miles for an $80,000 Tundra. For an $80,000 Tundra. All right? Toyota trucks are not the same anymore. They're not the same anymore. Now, Toyota fanboys will tell you they are. But I think M. Reyes drives an older Toyota Tacoma, which are to his credit, they're great. They will run forever. All right? They will. They will run forever. But they're not bulletproof anymore, Denny. Don't fall for that bullshit. Yes, at Waddington, Chevy 2500 all day. So I never thought I would do this, Brian, at least until I was a little bit later in my life. But I am thinking I'm going to go 2500, F250, like one of the bigger ones. Ram 2500. I might, because my brother, who I told you guys he went bow hunting in Montana last week, he's got this big ass trailer that he brings out with him. And, when you tow things, which we do, when I had my truck, I towed, things, and my brother tows things, and he's got an F-150, it's the tow capacity is kind of a fake number. For anybody that knows about towing and trucks and stuff, the towing capacity is kind of a fake number on many trucks because the payload, which is how much weight you can have, and every trailer pushes down a certain extent on the truck, the payload is low. So my brother's got this F-150, and on the side of it, it says 13,000 towing capacity. It's fucking bullshit. Because if the payload's over 2,000 or 4,000 pounds, whatever it is, it pushes down too much on the rear end of the truck, and you can't tow. So the better number to gauge is how much weight you can push down on the back of the truck. And I forget what exactly that number is called, but that's a better number. So my brother realized this when he bought his trailer, and he's thinking, hey, I got a 13,000 pound tow capacity on the truck. And then he's starting to add up the weight he's pushing down, and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I can't tow 13,000 pounds. I could barely tow 8,000 pounds. So you got it. That's one of the things you got to take into factoring. And the 2500s, the F-250s, all those bigger trucks, man, they deal with that much better. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Oh, see, Big Fish has a good setup. He says, I got the AT4 1500. I love that. AT4 is an awesome truck. Traded for new Tahoe with the baby Duramax. The new Tahoes are sick, Big Fish. And then he says, I got a BMW M550. Those are really fun cars. If I'm not mistaken, there's still an M. All right. There's still an, is it a V8 in the M550? Or is that just the M850? I know the M850, people like to say they're fake M cars, but they're still nice cars. M850, I know, has a V8 motor. Does the M550 have a V8? I don't know. You got to let me know. You were on here. I did. I got a great deal in the vet. So if you didn't hear me correctly, I didn't say I regret getting the vet. I regret getting rid of the truck. I should have just paid off the rest of the truck and then got the vet. That would have been the ideal scenario. Yeah, see, it's a V8. I knew it. I thought it was a twin turbo V8. Yeah, they're fun, man. They're really fun, those M550s. Really thinking about saying screw it and getting a Trackhawk. Trackhawks are fun. I've driven a Trackhawk. They got major power, man. Whoa! Hewlett had core injury and had surgery yesterday. Said he'll be back in a few months. Let me go check on Eagle Land. Okay, Brett Tesler. I see this. My client, I guess this is his agent. My client, Charlie Hewitt of the Philadelphia Eagles, 14-year-long vet, sustained a core injury and had successful surgery yesterday and will be back playing within a couple of months. That's agent speak. Hopefully he's right. But it's a long snapper. It's not the end of the world. Okay. We'll see. Anthony says, Anthony, you got to make sure Sills keeps his promise. Anthony, my bet would be, yeah, big fish. You and me both. Big fish. I'm looking for a truck right now. The dealership where I bought my vet has a red C7 Z06 with like 5,000 miles on it for a great price right now. I was literally like, should I trade the C8 for a C7 Z06? But I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can go backwards, man. The mid-engine, the C8, it's just too nice. I just love it too much. I can't do it. But maybe one day if I make it big, man, maybe one day if I make it big enough, God willing, whatever he's got in store for me, I'm good with. I'm not driven by money as much as I talk about some of the things I like. I really, it is what it is. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not what makes life for me, but it's a nice thing to have, you know, as a fruit of your labor. But I definitely would get that. That would be a set. I would have two Corvettes. I would have a C8 and I would have a C7 Z06 or a C7 ZR1 or a C6 ZR1. The C6 ZR1s are crazy. Quentin says, love this podcast. Tuning in from Houston, Texas. Go Birds. Quentin, I love it. And Quentin, I appreciate it. And Quentin, number 3, I lived in Houston, Texas for 2 years, Quentin. I dropped out of college, and when I first started my very first business out of college, I moved to Houston, Texas. I lived at the lofts at the ballpark right next to Minute Maid Stadium in downtown Houston. And my brother and I split rent. He was getting his PhD from Rice. So he was a student on a scholarship. And I was starting my very first business out of college. I made about $1,500 a month at the time. My rent was about $10,000 a month, split with my brother. I think it was like $2,000, and we split it, so it was $1,000 each. And I lived in Houston, Texas for 2 years. I didn't have a plug nickel in my pocket for the entire 2 years of my stay. Not one fucking plug nickel, man. Not one plug nickel in my pocket. I told you I made about $1,400 a month. My rent was $1,000. My other $400 went to my other bills and my food. And then my brother covered me the rest. And I racked up about $15,000 of credit card debt in those 2 years. All right. I racked up about $15,000 of credit card debt in those 2 years. So good times. Good times, man. Good times. So that was fun. Quentin, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being here. All right. All right, guys. Love all you guys. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it very much. We got a lot of things, good things coming. We are going to keep grinding. I'm going to try and do a giveaway probably tomorrow or Friday, one or the other. But I got somewhere to be here at 11:15, so I got to run here. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, a big shout out to the guys who had me on last night, Bird Gang 31 and JC. Both of them were awesome. I loved talking to them, and I hope to talk to them again soon. They said they might bring me back on. I'd love to go back on their program. So That'd be pretty cool. One thing I want to kind of do here on JAKIB, I just don't have the time. I really don't know how I would launch this. I really don't. But I'd like to launch again the Zander Krause show, and I'd like to bring on some of the Eagles content creators because Sills and John are, they both are great in their own regard, but they're more of the traditional media style, if that makes sense. And I kind of like being both. I like talking to the traditional media, and I also like bridging the gap with some of the young content creators, some of the other styles, some of the, the other people that talk, So maybe I'd like to do that. I'm already out of time in my day, man. All right. I'm already out of time. So I don't know how to do it. Big Mike becomes a member, man. Big Mike, thank you, bro. Big Mike, I love you, brother. Big Mike, I appreciate you. And Big Mike, thank you for your support of the channel, my friend. It really means a lot to me. And you are a welcome member, man. You are a much appreciated part of this community. You really are, Big Mike. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, bro. All of you guys are great, really. All of you. I love talking to all of you guys. I really do. I think all of you guys are awesome, and I love it. I do love what I do. I'll say that. I hope that is evident every day when I'm on the air. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I don't have a plug nickel to my name. That's part of owning your own business. But I really love what I do. And most of that is actually not from talking about football. Most of that is from talking to the great people. That's really what it is. It's not as much to me about talking football is fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm privileged to be able to do it. It's an honor. I do love doing that. I'm lucky, some could say. But my favorite part about it isn't that. My favorite part about it always has been the people, the community, connecting with Eagle fans, connecting with other people, talking, debating, going back and forth, and having respect for one another. So appreciate it, man. Big Mike, Quentin, thanks for being here. Denny, Kirsten, love you, appreciate you. Master Eagle, Denny, Big Mike, Philly Don, appreciate you, brother, as always, one of our greatest supporters. Been here all throughout. Matt NG, Matt, thank you, brother. Great to have you in here. Curtis, as always, love you, Curtis, and appreciate you. KCA Eagle, Twiz the Jigga, one of our best and longest supporters. Twiz, love you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Anthony Lear, Denny Mertz, Brian Waddington, thanks for being here, bro. Big Trag, everybody. I love all you guys, man. I appreciate you all very, very, very much. I hope you guys know that. I know I say it, but that doesn't mean you believe it. I hope you believe it. I appreciate it. Tony, love you, Tony. Appreciate all you guys. See you next time, man.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.